Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players' Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Be a player.
Let's get it, guys. Let's have a good day.
And welcome on in, everybody. Good evening, everyone. Good midday, wherever you are watching this from. We are ready to bring you some more PUBG Battlegrounds action. Felix, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing amazing. I get to see some of the EMEA teams that, if you watch PGS 7, we haven't really seen much of. It's not going to be the same teams, but at least some of the teams from EMEA are going to have a good time this time around. Which I've been desperately missing.
100%. What we are kicking off tonight is the PUBG Players Super Cup EMEA. I had to study that one a bit, but it contains all the information in the name. It's a Super Cup, so it's more than a Players Cup. We have $5,000 up for grabs tonight, but it's not quite the PUBG, which we'll get in another few months. So if we have a look at the format, I'm down to check that out right now. We can look at the format graphic. What we've watched the last few weeks were the Player Cups, where each of those Player Cups we had a top 8 coming to the Super Cup, which we'll have through today and the rest of the weekend. So 12 games of PUBG coming at you.
Yeah, we saw it in the first week. I had the very fortunate situation that I was able to cast these games as well. We saw a dominant performance coming out from FaZe Clan and a couple of other teams as well, to be honest. And obviously, in case you've missed the format, the exact way the format works, it's top 8 out of each of these cups, the Player Tour Cups that you can see on your screen right now, that will make and form the 16 teams that we'll have in the Super Cup for this week. It's not a Master Cup this time around. Be reminded, that one was $20,000, and that was a couple of weeks back. This time around, it's a Super Cup, and the first one of its kind as well.
First one of its kind. The first time we get to check out that format, because we're staying on the short nights, right? 4 games a day, short and snappy. No time to mess up at all, but we're giving these players 3 days. So 12 day games in total. I think is a good sum. It's generally accepted that a best of 12 is a whole lot more competitive than a best of 6, right? So we're moving this up a notch. We're giving players a bit more of a chance to show the consistency, to work through these games. And obviously we get the chance to watch a whole lot of PUBG throughout this whole weekend.
Yeah, we've said it a million times before. It's a perfect opportunity to showcase for some of these teams that don't really necessarily get the chance to play on stream often, play against some of the top teams. Yes, it's TPP. It might be a little bit of a new thing for some of these teams. At least they came into this this new format for this year. But as I said before, it's a great way to learn, to experience how it is to play against some of these partner teams as well that we've got coming up. Apart from the teams obviously that have participated in PGS 7, but it's a great place to learn, and it's a great place to showcase some of what you got.
Yeah. And a lot of these teams have already been super impressive. You weren't here for the last week. We had a crazy photo finish basically in the last game with everybody just struggling their way on in. But I think we should probably take our minds back a little bit, because the other event, the first Player Cup that we got here, was already 3 weeks ago. So we're going to have a look at some of the highlights and some of the teams that were able to impress us. Starting out with SlamG, one of the teams that has dominated every open qualifier, got themselves an easy top 4 in the event. Yes, they were completely overshadowed by FaZe, but everybody in that lobby was. And SlamG is definitely a team that I'm looking out for tonight.
Yeah, super experienced players as well. Let's be honest. We've seen these guys play in a multitude of tournaments, not only this year but last year as well. And even though in some parts of it have been different lineups, they've always performed individually as well. And you can see, obviously, 180R as well. They had a great showing, just not in too many of these games, unfortunately. I really expected more coming out from them. But that's just been the story of that very first cup, right? It's just been phase, to be honest. They were able to close out so many of these games. Talking about another team that we see right here, Sen, that's really been struggling to close out any of these games to even get into late game scenarios in that first week. They haven't even made it in the first week, but we still got them here. They had a great showing the second week. You were able to cast them. Tell me a little bit about them. Did things really turn around, or maybe was it the case of just a different lobby?
A little bit of both. They were playing much more aggressive, much more confident in that lobby, which is what you would expect, but it's exactly what you need them to do, what you want them to do as well. So they were able to get themselves a third place, and we see it here, right? This is the first week. We see them on the lower end of that kill feed, on the worst end of that kill feed the whole time. So first week they got nothing going. Second week they kind of freed themselves a little bit and started playing.
I remember this.
And this is a big one. This is Hibako completely popping off. And Hands of Hope, again, another team in the shadow of FaZe Clan, right? But if there wouldn't have been a FaZe Clan, they would be the main story we would be talking about, because they weren't a team we expected to pop off the way they did, and they followed close in FaZe's footsteps.
Yeah, they had a couple of good chances to close out games as well. Unfortunately, that didn't really happen. They kind of just fell short on a lot of these rounds. But yeah, 100%. I think if not for the dominant performance of FaZe Clan, we would definitely be highlighting them going into this day as well. Once again, it is TPP. To some degree, you could argue that, you know, that there is a clean slate. I wouldn't say the general game plan of how these teams play, but at least in some certain scenarios, in some certain positions, situations that you find yourself in during splitting of these games, you might make different decisions now that it is TPP, especially in terms of decision making, which fight to take, right? There's a different scenario in this game, for example, that we had in the late game as well, where maybe if it would have been FPP, we would have had different teams push each other, but this time around, it was kind of like the high ground situation that was able to you know, solidify that win that we saw in the end there, and Esports was kind of at the bottom feet of that as well. Another team that we really have to highlight, they had an amazing performance, just really struggling to close out games. That's ultimately what I want to look for during the next 3 days as well, right? Closing out some of these games. If FaZe doesn't do that, I think we're not really in much trouble as a FaZe Clan fan.
100%. And this is something that I found quite interesting as well, is looking at the FaZe Clan performance, and I looked at what they did on day one, right? And it wasn't even that crazy. They had 58 points on day one. Bushido in the second tournament that we're going to watch now, they were, I think, 66 points on the first day, so they had an even better day one than FaZe, but they fell off completely. They fumbled completely on the second day, so that's a bit of a topic of, was that a fluke? Are we going to see them pop off now? Are they going to be consistent? There's a few question marks there for me under the name of Bushido, who, again, dominated one day and then completely fluked the other one, so not exactly what you want to be seeing when we're playing more days and more games.
Yeah, I mean, Bushido's always an interesting team. Look at that, you know, at that team, you look at the players themselves, and you really just know if these guys can frag out, these guys can really turn around any kind of situation. But in terms of general game plans, just hasn't really been able to find late game scenarios consistently as much. And I think that's the perfect example of this, right? They pop off one day, they kind of fall short on the second day. That's the thing. We're not only having 2 days of play now, or potentially multitude of scrims even, if you want to go even before that into the qualification stage. We now have 3 days with 4 games each. This is a best of 12 now if you want to really make yourself into the top 3, if you want to make a push for maybe even the tournament win. These types of days, they're not allowed against some of the teams that we have competing in, because FaZe Clan, they're not going to have a day like this, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
for sure. And this is going to be as we watch the last bit of the nail biter there, and that's going to be a big thing here for a lot of these teams. The last 2 player cups, we were talking a lot about who would qualify, and we were talking about a lot about who would get top 8. Now it's for the prize money. Now you're not as happy getting 8th here and saying, well, job done. And that's not the goal anymore. The goal here is to get as much of the money as you can, to finish as high on the leaderboard as you can. And then, like you said, you can't be dropping a day. You're either out of the top 8 or at least out of the top 4, top 5 if you're dropping a day. That's 4 games. no chance. So consistency is going to be a massive thing here. And with the teams probably being a tiny bit more rusty now that they didn't play scrims in the week leading up to this, and we had a bit of a break for PGS, going to be interesting to see who pops it off nice and early.
Yeah, this is also an interesting topic of conversation, discussion, I guess, as well, right? How much does that practice really matter? Because I doubt a lot of these teams, especially the partner teams, due to the fact that the global tournaments are on FPP right now, I doubt they're really practicing TPP as much outside of these cups. So I think having an additional week, like Ascent has here, for example, right? They failed the first week. Yes, we can argue and talk about what that means for that team all day long and whether or not there's going to be lineup changes. Maybe there is in some way. I don't really even want to start that conversation, but, some people are arguing about that. How much is that really going to matter in TPP's tournament specifically, that extra experience they get from another week? And I mean, you said it yourself, they could have easily won that second week as well. It was a couple of points different. I think they crossed that 70-point barrier as well.
Yeah.
So they have had far from a bad second week, and I think they are warming up to TPP here, and I want to see them perform today as well. We'll see whether or not that really made a difference.
Yeah, and there's two ways to look at this. You can say, well, the best teams already qualified in week 1, right? That's the top line that we see in this little graphic here. That's the best 8 teams out of the lobby. And then the second week might have been a little bit easier. But the second week also was way, way more equal. If you look at the cutoff in the first week, we had a team qualify with 32 points. 32 points would have given you a 13th place in the other week, right? Or, sorry, a 12th place in the other week. So the difference was massive between FaZe sponging up all the points and then the lobby being way, way closer around week 4. So you could even argue that, yes, week 4 might have been slightly weaker teams at the top, but it was way better practice because the lobby was so much closer in skill towards each other. And when you look at that bottom row, especially for me, sort of the first 4 to 5 teams, those are big names regardless. Those are not, oh yeah, they qualified to the second chance kind of teams. These are teams that could easily pop off and dominate this event.
Yeah, I'm still surprised how few of the partner teams didn't make it, right? You see it week after week. I thought it was going to be a tougher transition. I thought it was going to be more of a clean slate, to be honest. I talked about this earlier. But the partner teams still seem to be dominating from time to time. It's not as consistent maybe as it would be in FPP. Actually, maybe it even is. But yeah, I would have expected at least some of the partner teams to struggle a bit more. I think that's kind of one takeaway. I know it sounds weird to say, but one takeaway for me. But you can just know, like, it doesn't really matter the perspective. These guys have either started with TPP and have been playing this game for, 7-8 years, maybe even from the very start of the early access, but TPP was the only thing, or they've just found their footing really, really easily. And I know a lot of if you look at different regions, for example, a lot of the teams, even before TPP tournaments have now been a thing, they did play in their free time. I don't think in Europe it's happened as much. I mean, you can feel free to correct me on that statement. I'm thinking in Europe we play a lot of TPP. I think the players have kind of just focused on FPP for the most part. But I think especially in other regions, a lot of people are very up to date on how to play TPP. And even though they haven't necessarily participated in a lot of these tournaments or these PUBG sponsored tournaments, I think they would have a much easier time finding their way into this. And especially if it would, in theory, have an international TPP tournament, I think that's where the differences would really show.
That'd be super interesting to see because, I mean, we've watched this now last week, right? With PGS coming on in and every team that's qualified through their own region and they've dominated their own region, they come to a global. Some of them end up 3rd, some of them end up 16th, and both of them absolute contenders for the win. So whenever you mix the regions, it gets really, really interesting because we are saying this now. We have a little bit of that going on. We're mixing the 2 lobbies, right? We're mixing week 3 and week 4 together for the Super Cup, and we don't really know what's going to happen. But when you mix regions together, that's a whole different pair of shoes, and that's super interesting. But that's a long way away, right? We are looking at a best of 12. We're looking at 3 days of games. And we're going to be kicking our game off in just a minute here. So don't worry, guys. The players are already loading in. The lobby's already booting up. So we're going to be yapping for about another minute. And then we finally get to see the game.
Yeah, I think we want to take this time just to give all of you out there the shout out to actually participate in this. You might watch this stream. You might be, this is something that I will never be able to participate in. And yes, maybe if you're just starting out, maybe the Super Cup of the Masters Cup is something that is indeed very, very tough to qualify for. But there are scrims every single week where you can just put yourself in there with a couple of friends. You have 4 days to play for points, and who knows, maybe you'll qualify for some of the Player Tour Cups. And I think that's not super far-fetched. That's not super for anyone out there playing the game on a regular basis. So if you look at the stream, you're thinking these guys are so much better than me. Just try it out. Give it a try. Sign up on the page. You'll find the links in the description, or just ask in chat and really just participate. Give it a try. Esports is way different to any of the public games. So in case you haven't tried it, you're literally just watching the streams. There's just going to be my take for today, my shout out to anyone out there who hasn't. So yeah, sign up and try it. It's very different. Esports is very different to the public games.
100%. And I've read the chat as well. There's plenty of people in chat, Felix, that do think that they're better than these players. So I invite them to come over and give it a try. It's the best way into it, right? Like we said this plenty of times. Mark always uses his buzzword gateway into esports. It's like you said, not a clean slate, but it's a bit of a reset. Everything is kind of fresh. Everyone is kind of figuring out the meta and everything. There's no better time to get into it, but there's also no better time to get into it for game number 1. We're going to Miramar. We're going to be playing each map once tonight. So this is the same as the player cups. We're going to be playing 4 maps: Miramar, Tego, Rondo, Erangel, and we're going to repeat that 3 times. But the first match is almost on the way, Felix.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time indeed. So head on over to the very first map. We're going to play 4 matches today. Be reminded, this is a best of 12, so it's going to be happening throughout the next 2 days as well. As the first plane is indeed over our beloved island, Miramar. Not really much of an island. Beloved land.
There's islands there. It counts.
Fair enough.
Planes going through the air. Bit southern tint on this one. And honestly, a bit of a confusing spread of teams already. Nobody going down to Vale at all. Ascend going to Alcantara a bit late. And then Monte being open means that there's going to be a lot of contention in other places. And I can already see Chuma looking a little saucy here, Felix.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, that's most of the times on Miramar, especially in a lobby where, none of these teams have really had a first game on Miramar yet. Most of the times, especially towards Church, a big choke points. But I'm more surprised about Ascent and Monte Nuevo, to be honest. Ascent definitely kind of waiting for anyone to go up before they jump. I think you noticed that exactly the right way. And I think that's because as a result of that both of these teams jumped really late. I think Freeside as well. No one jumped to Monte. I think they thought one of these teams was going to be the one jumping to Monte, because if you do jump to Monte, you want to do it a little bit delayed with this playing path. So surprisingly, no one's going to be there. I don't think that's going to happen in the next 2 days, but just an interesting point to notice.
That's going to be really interesting to keep an eye on, like I said, for the coming days, because obviously now everybody watches this back and sees, oh wow, okay, we could have just gone Monte and we would have been looting nice and early, close to the circle, lots of cars, would have been amazing. But then there's a chance that once tomorrow rolls around, we see 2 teams trying to go for Monte, right? So not that easy to lock that in, but a surprising split of teams regardless, especially when jumping out early is something we've seen a lot from these teams, where it's like, yes, you're not sure where you're going to loot. Yes, you're not sure if you're contested or uncontested, but at least you're out early. So you get your boots on the ground, you start looting while other teams are still sitting in the plane. So that's something you generally do prefer. And that makes it even more curious how this spread across the map has happened.
Interesting now. If you look at this first phase, super good for some of these teams coming in from the northwest side, but even worse because of the fact that the playing path was so scrambled, I guess you could say. Or not the playing path, rather the teams that went out of it. So there's going to be a lot of contention towards the eastern, and I think later on towards the southern side as well. I think that's going to be the entry a lot of these teams are going to be looking for. Maybe even for esports. Hope for sure. FaZe Clan maybe even. If you even look at FaZe Clan, even Baldi Nini is just around the corner from them. So we're definitely going to have a lot of contention, even in Phase 1 and Phase 2 in this specific circuit. Even though it is so centralized, once again, it's not really the usual case, right? You would usually have at least 2 more teams towards west side of Chumacera. Be there Monte, be there somewhere towards the split on the hillside. So interesting thing. But yeah, as you said, I think a lot of these teams are going to look back at this first game and be like, we definitely should have jumped differently.
This is super interesting to me as well. We're not going so early. Look at the clock, 3 minutes in the game, and they are sending it for what they believe is the center compound they want to play. We even have Presenti scout it a bit, take a few pop shots to see if there was a reaction. He hasn't seen anyone just yet, so they are going. And if you look at the map here as well, they went very, very early, and Dante was already walking up on them. Dante was already walking up on Presenti's compound. He was already ready to go for a nice and early free kill. But Win or Die is so fast and so aggressive that they won't even know what happened. And I don't know if 9-Way is ready for this. Win or Die probably realizing that there is some contention around that compound, but they can easily slot into any of the surrounding compounds here. They can easily go up the hill and take up and down or something in that area. And I think going early here is going to be massively rewarded for them.
Yeah, 9-Way in terms of rewards. Just be careful as well of not being at the other side of that reward, as they do have Go Next somewhat close to the 2-2 split that they are currently holding. And unfortunately for them, that's just about a 2-2 split. Just now, his first teammate arrived. Suzo is still on the defense. Icalyptus, I think, has just realized that there's someone inside the compound. They don't want to commit to that just yet. I don't think that's worth it just yet either. So they will be driving away. No fight for now, at least, for 9-Way, who once again has one of the most centralized compounds in this current phase. When I still doing a 3-1 split, you can see the first scout has been a successful rotation. They've found their way in towards the compound just west of 9-Way, but they still do have that one player up towards the hillside. Just for information play, it's a good split to do. 3-1, you can't really be in too much trouble towards that northern side, that position where the northern player is. If you see someone driving towards you, you can literally just dodge towards the southern side, and your teammates have vision on you as well. So there's a great split coming out from Win or Die. Yes, I'm a little bit surprised about the timing as well. It's rather early, especially because of the fact that so few teams were out towards the western side, but I guess Win or Die must have not seen that.
I think it's crazy early, but it's also really, really good. Like, I think a lot of the spots they went for would have been a lot more contested if they were there a minute later, right? So team from El Pozo, for example, a team like Freeside coming in, they would have loved to have those spots, and now they just see, oh, it's taken, we got to play a bit more edge. So I think it worked out really nicely for them, and they got themselves a massive amount of space now. They're even spreading out further there. Rox is looking at the top shack, even skipping the fire station, just to grab a little bit more info, grab a little bit more space, and show even more presence towards that western side. So looking like a beautiful setup here.
Wow.
in their phase 1. And what's going on here? That doesn't look super great for Bushido, Felix.
No, the might just be Gatros getting the first pick here against Bushido. Unfortunately, he only hits the first 3 bullets. Maybe just one more needed. Getjogs does take him down, and that's a good shot with the MK12. Leo's just going to be able to finish that off as well. Bushido, unfortunately, very first game, we had high hopes for them. Especially you highlighted them in the very first day they had in the qualification matches, where they dominated that one. This time around, they will fall short to JG, who's sprung that trap really, really, really well as well. You could just tell they were kind of ready for that rotation very early on. I think Gadrox must have spotted them, one of this team rather, must have spotted them rotating in that way from quite a bit of distance. But I don't think his position makes any other sense there. So GG doesn't he get rewarded with that first point? And yeah, I have to highlight Win or Die again. I mean, you said it beforehand, right? That timing really only makes sense if you do take a spread like that. And right now, due to the fact that there are so few teams to the western side, you might not even get punished for it.
Yeah, and this is looking like it's a thing that's about to happen as well on all of these compounds. A lot of teams being very aggressive here, looking for punishes. We already saw the Go Next situation there a few minutes ago. Pull up into a compound, realizing, okay, there's a little bit of resistance here, but we're gonna have a look anyways. We're gonna have a look and see what's going on, and they decide to pull out of that. But we just had a glimpse at the map. Foot doing similar things in the middle of the circle. FaZe doing similar things on the south to Baldini. Everybody is trying to test these splits. Everybody is trying to test the waters, get a little aggressive. And yeah, there's Baldini now, catching a few shots onto Vard, but Vard's gonna come back into the compound, and I think Winkley has to be very careful. He is playing with a bit of fire, Felix.
Yeah, he's all alone. His teammates nowhere to be seen. Unfortunately, only hits one shot. Vard with a little bit of luck there, to be honest. He wasn't really driving very fast. He could have definitely been shot out, but didn't happen. And Bardinini, no one really had angle on him while that spray was happening. A little bit of luck there either. I think a couple of more players from FaZe would have been towards the eastern dips. They could have definitely lasered him down as well. But be that as it may, for Esports finds a good situation towards, I do believe that's up towards the hills. So they haven't really taken the tiles. They've just taken a compound towards the rainbows for now, but it's a good position either way. It does give you a lot of information. You can take the hillside later on if it does center around towards the eastern side of things. FaZe, on the other hand, still very unsure where they want to head at phase 1.
Super interesting. Foot on a 3-1, right? Three players towards the prior compound. 80 in that 5 stack. in Los Leones, so it's going to be a little bit behind the camera, behind FaZe Clan. FaZe doing the exact opposite. FaZe just power in numbers, getting in straight line into the circle, figuring out the path of least resistance. Just going to be leading them into combat that Mexi is currently playing. Furthest one away. Completely different approaches, but I'm a little worried for FaZe here. They're sort of, again, testing the waters. They might be breaching into ADR here, realizing, hey, there's just one gun shooting at us. But James is already down to half HP, and if someone just hits a one-banger shot, then you're down to a 3-man. So definitely taking some risks here, but they're getting the info for it at least.
They will fall back indeed. I would not have been surprised if they actually would have free 40 spots here. Because I do think they realize it's a 3-1 split right now, even though no one has really shot from the city. I think they do have that information. So FaZe Clan, I could definitely see them being one of the teams, especially against FUT Esports, where they really want to take that isolated 4-3 fight if they do have the opportunity to do so. Even in Phase 1, but for now, they will fall back towards the outskirts of Los Leones, scouting across. Don't really spot anyone just yet over there, but yeah, if is inside this compound, I think they will get that information sooner or later as well. This is Schengen, though, starting things off for Hope. We've said at a great qualification as well. They've been dominating together with FaZe Clan. That's a deep west shift right into the answer for Ascent.
Big shift towards Ascent. You could see they were all in cars as well. They were ready to send it somewhere, but now they've been given a circle, and all they have to do is regroup. Other teams, much slower to the circle. Win or Die, going to be grouping on top here most likely. Maybe looking into Chumacera as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just hold their split. And then teams like Slam, they just know we gotta get something going here. The teams in front of us will take the best compounds, will take the best positions, but if we just take second best, we can get ourselves into nice splits here. So lots of teams really just not putting on the brakes at all, going for spots quite early when they have the prio, and it's going to work out really nicely for a team like Slam that didn't have the best prio, but now end up in one of the center spots with 4-man up regardless.
Definitely a macro play for a lot of these IGLs right now. You know, there's only very certain endings on this particular shift. You know, there's certain positions it just has to shift away from. And if you actually look at the certain center right now, that's always the problem with these types of shifts towards the west of Chumacera. There's only very few spots that are available. And yes, there's some of the dips towards the eastern side of where Ascent's compound is, like towards the open fields. There's certain dips you can play, but you can't play them just yet. You can play them very late, you know, domino-esque, rotating in as soon as everyone else around you is being pushed up. You can't play them just yet, so that's kind of the problem. You can actually play towards the deep center, and if you really want to get around all that fighting or that skirmish on the edges that we will now see in Phase 2, Phase 3, your set is really the only option. So I really like what I'm seeing right here. If you do have prio, go for it.
If you do have prio, go for it. If you do have a good backfill, go for it as well. FaZe Clan, meanwhile, backfilling a solo from Baldini. They're chasing him across the whole map. But now, a bit of the cavalry has arrived. Things are going to slow down. FUT on the other side, gotten themselves one with the flush as well. They got to be careful, though, to get Vard back on his feet. Playing with Kapi here tonight, by the way. T-Bone, I believe, is the one that's not available. So FUT picked up the young Polish fragger and are trying to make it work in that way. That's going to be really interesting to watch how the games go for them without T-Bone. He's been IGLing them for a long while, and even if they are making shifts right now, it's going to be a big voice on the team that's no longer there. So super interested to see how they do.
Comment over the hillside is taken now as well, but it is not without a fight. We'll really look at the map. But unfortunately for Baldini, they don't know it just yet. Oribaku's just waiting for them inside the warehouse. Question only is, can he stay hidden? Because as soon as he's spotted, they will know how to deal with this, and his teammates are falling as well. But as long as he stays hidden, who knows? He could definitely have a little bit of a clutch potential with that Panzerfaust in hand. But yeah, as we said, right? Hope in the distance already fallen down. The Bud is down to 1 HP, and Baldini is taking control of the most of the compound.
Yeah, he's got to pull a miracle here. He's got to somehow hope he gets 2 with the Panzer and then maybe wins the 1v2. That's in the realms of possibility, but you can see Sloy as well, right? He's looking for it. You can see Marcel getting himself in position where he's a bit safer. It doesn't look like Baldini is gonna make a mistake. That's gonna cost them so many players at the same time. There's Ibaka with 1, but he knows he can't just go for the flush. He has to look for more, and he's looking. They're not giving him anything. And if he doesn't get a whole lot of 1v1s, I don't really see his chances here, Felix.
No, he tries to hit something with a nade. That's a good nade, though. The player is another wall behind that. So he's not going to find much with it. They do know his position though, and they do know the rest of his teammates are forward into the distance as well. Faceland instead has taken that hillside. And, well, they're going to be careful as well, because I think if they have information on Faceland, they're going to be careful of getting pushed out as well as soon as that fight's over. But never mind me. Faceland is rotating deep inside. They're looking to maybe even attack Believe up until the next hillside over. But now it's going to be Ivago trying to defend this. He's got AK in hand. He doesn't hit the spray, unfortunately. Now he does. Second player, he's one too much, though, and Marcel's going to be able to hit the trade. Teammate does not go down, indeed, and that's at least one trade being secured for Bardinini, but they've lost the play in the process to the Panzerfaust. I mean, I don't think he would have survived either way, even without the Panzerfaust, but still, that's going to hurt them.
It was looking like they had such a good idea, but look at that. Mexi, good stuff. They say 1-2, thank you, Belief. I think they've lost a member earlier already, so they're just down to 1. Firm hands of FaZe Clan coming down from the mountaintop. Gonna take a bit of control in that area. Gonna post them up as the team with the most amount of members present. Bushido, on the other hand, they're looking for a bit of a send down the road, but it's not looking good at all. Crossberg is dancing. Metabe is just rolling down. No control over his car anymore.
Oh, he's going further.
I mean, he's got a spot. He's got a spot down here. He's got a pronable spot for a bit, but I'm not even sure that he... I don't think for long. I think there's nobody on the hill above Ascend, but once there is, it's over. It's doomed.
Actually, he might now have a spot. I think now, the way the car blew up and, you know, flipped over, I think if he prones in between the ridge line and the car, he might be safe for just, you know, a couple more phases at the very least. But, yeah, definitely not the situation you want to find yourself in. Definitely a Fast and Furious drive. Puts the car into reverse and drives it down the hill. That's not an easy feat because, obviously, the controls are reversed by then. So, yeah, he does make it work, though. Let's see if Tubby makes it work as well, because he will meet Crossberg in just a couple of seconds. Crossberg will take him down. Bushido finds at least one frag in this round. We reminded his teammates all the way down the hillside. He has to make that cross. Doesn't get it. Presenti is able to take him down with a mini 14. But Itzgris picks up the point for Ascent. And they will remain in the circle center right now in phase 3.
Metabe is making a run up. I thought he would want to go down, get as deep inside that dip as he can, and pro next to the car, but he had other ideas, other options. It's Win or Die who pick him up in the end, but Freeside and Ascend, they were both looking at that as well, looking to snatch up a free point. Bushido, yes, send it into the center, but not the most playable, and just not enough players and cars there to actually give each other cover. We are going to have another zone pop on in, though. We are going to have a phase 4 shift. Might tell us a little bit about where this game is going, and I mean, yeah, you gotta give it to Ascend, right? They're now sitting in the most prio compound. They're sitting in the best compound at the moment, and they're sitting on a side with a bit more space than the eastern side. Look how crammed that eastern half is, Falex. Look how many teams are competing for very few spots, and then on the west, it's really just three and a half teams competing for that western half of the circle. So should be doable for Ascend, but it's not free. This is not a given. Playing out of that compound late can be a bit tricky. Everything around it is quite open.
I want to see what the teams around Ascend are doing right now, because FaZe Clan has an option to breach them, but they decide to opt into the city instead. They saw the brick building was clear, so they probably just want to fight their way through Chumacer. I don't even think they're going to go for the big win here. I mean, just try to play on foot here, try to get as many isolated fights as possible. And then there's obviously GG towards the northern and western side as well. But they do have a little bit of a ridge line towards the very northern side of things. Like, just below the Heaven compound, there's another ridge line. They have Prio one. I think Axton's already made his way towards that. So they're not even going to try to go for Ascend either. First player does go down, though. And that's the fight I was talking about. 8C will take down Stonix. On the other side, never mind. That's not even for Esports. Excuse me, that's Slam G behind them. Yeah. That's not even this fight. I was completely misremembering things here. That's Slam G behind them. Now they will probably try to get a piece of the action as well, but instead it's EF actually trying to make more things work. How does that push work? Code Marky should have been spotted through third person, but they were just taking down FaZe Clan one by one, and just like that, it's just one player left standing. That's James all the way up to the ridge line. And he's got no business in this fight whatsoever. He's not even looking across the ridgeline. Just like that, FaZe Clan completely eliminated.
Oh, and that's a big one from Brex as well. The Panzerfaust out of the car. It takes it out last second before it shoots off. Takes down Marcel. FaZe Clan absolutely demolished on the other side of the map here. RCQ runs through the molly. Brex not ready for it. It's going to take a whole lot of damage. But he's still up. He's still kicking. As I say that, Third party comes in, X10 takes him down. Baldini make the breach. I don't want to say successfully, as they do lose a member, but Brex dying with that 3 gear is bad news bears for Ascend as well.
Yeah, I mean, there were so few teams that could really challenge Ascend in this position, and it feels like Ascend was still not ready for it, unfortunately. Really being outplayed here on that breach. Still got 3 players outstanding, though, on the better side of the road, I suppose, looking at the circle. So there's definitely potential for a lot more points, but the winners just now, with Brexit going down, definitely going down in terms of probability, unfortunately, for any Ascent fan out there. And the rest of the teams towards the northeastern side, as you said before, will now approach a very dangerous phase, because they're all being crammed into one another, and Eternal Fire might just be the first team to do that.
Ooh, triple nades.
Wow.
2 of them short, though. Nice opener. Nice try. As Slam G is going to stay alive. Another Panzerfaust. They just don't stop coming. Circle goes towards northwest. Circle goes once again towards Ascend and Freeside. Ascend going to be biting themselves a little bit more about losing Brex there now, as this is one of the positions where you can win a game up from. City's not done yet, though, as we said before. Don't forget about James either. On that mountaintop with the Lynx. If he finds just a few shots in the back of Eternal Fire, then suddenly their game can be looking very, very tricky as well.
Yeah, I was surprised Faceland didn't actually opt to go to play that road just below James for at least this phase, and then maybe they just try to find an opener while someone breaches Ascent. That's the game plan that I thought Phase 1 was going to play for, but they opted for the city, and now James, as you said, right, he's still got, I think, a little bit of a position just down below his hillside that he can potentially survive in while the rest of the teams are fighting in Chuma, but he goes further than this. He goes way further. He's probably going to try to play that ridge line just behind Baldinini, but that's a very early drive to make that happen, because Eternal Fire might just look across the ridge line.
Gore is picking up 1 and 2 easily, flushing that out for his teammate as well. ADR looking feisty, but not looking like they're going to stand true. Cappy caught on the road. This is an absolute bloodbath in the city here, Felix. I think Foot's down to 1, Slam down to 1, ADR 2. Nobody's really coming out with numbers except for Eternal Fire, and even they have to make a big move. Still down from their elevated position. And all these players here, yeah, it ain't looking good. It ain't looking good anywhere they go. Go Next Esports, making the send, trying to thread the needle in between these 2 teams, but only Apocalyptus has gone through. Max and Fine is still all the way up on the hillside. Not sure where they're going.
Apocalyptus now. He's watched that vehicle that flipped over just a couple of minutes beforehand, and he will find that position as well. It's good survivability. He's as deep center as one can be. But the fights are far from over. 100 AR still looking for it. Exis. Wow, sees his teammate go down. Mogor with another frag. He might just 1v4 them here. Mogor might be able to grab an angle, but no, he's going to be taken out instead. And Exis dies to the blue zone. 100 AR is eliminated as well. 10th plays. Mogor still standing. He's got 2 more first aids. Maybe the players just below him will have a little bit more to go, but no. Ketba's there to watch him. Jumps out the window, takes him down. Mogor, what a performance though. The 1v2, while it was completely focused on James, takes the 1v2 and just gives a couple of more points. But as we said, right, coming out of Chuma's era this late in the game, phase 5 is an almost impossible scenario. So good on EF as well to take these positions very early on.
Yeah. Also, I mean, taking these positions out of the hands of Faceland, who had a good grasp on it. They had 4 members up, they were trying to take space, and they just got absolutely demolished by Eternal Fire. So it's not like they just got the circles. They worked hard for them. They worked hard for the position and the frags they got. Now, 6 frags on the tally. Win or die in front of them. They got to move into similar positions here. Not a whole lot left in this circle. A few ridges on the east. 1 ridge on the north, really, for GG to play. And then not a whole lot of space on the south. James repositioning once again. He's got 3 tires left, so that coupe is okay for another round. As I say that, takes more damage, gets another tire pops. He ain't going anywhere. He's gonna be on foot from now on. And I don't even hate his chances here, because everybody else is gonna be mighty busy in this circle, so there is a chance that he slips through.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the circle exactly, right, everyone has to kind of maneuver around towards the northern side of things to actually make their way in. And I think Eternal Fire realizes that as well, that first of all, I mean, even the chances of making it in are very, very slim. But if you do want to have any chances to kind of focus on the northern side, right? You go from ridgeline to ridgeline, you try to take as many of these players that are still standing somewhere around there and take them down. That's the first one that falls short, though. The man tries to make it in. Rocks with a quick headshot in the AUG. Will deny that as Kepler goes down as well. This might just be the end here of Eternal Fire. Cool Marco's being spotted out as well. He got one smoke left in his arsenal to really try and get a couple of more meters in, but let's be honest, they're going to be picked apart here. If anyone, maybe Marco can do something. He's trying to look for the knock. Unfortunately, misses his chance. Presenti sneaks back behind the ridgeline. And now he's being spotted out by Presenti instead. But it isn't even needed. GG from the distance is going to finish that off. Eternal Fire eliminated in 7th place. That's less placement points than they really wanted. But let's be honest, they really made almost everything they could in Chumazera and got plenty of kill points as a result of that. So not a bad round whatsoever.
Not a bad round at all. In the end, the setup from Win or Die, just a little bit too good, just a little too clean. Not able to overcome that. Not able to push Presenti, not able to aggress the other two down in the valley below either, so bit tricky for them. Boldini looking for James now. James not very well aware, but he has a bit of cover here to play with. He's gotten himself a little box of loot that he's trying to use to his advantage. Now knows Winkley is there. Now surely going to be peeking him. The nade's already cooking though. Gonna let loose. James, he's got to hit the shots quick. And oh, that hit a branch. Oh, that's disaster for Winkley.
Oh, yeah, he did.
That's the only one he had.
And now he's stuck to the blue zone as well. There's a nade against him. He gets saved by the tree in return though, but James takes him down anyways. He's got a couple of more meters inside, as you can see. But, I mean, it was still the correct play. Right, Baldini, I mean, they have to make it out of the house, across the street towards the center otherwise, and that's just never going to happen. So, yes, it falls short to James, but of course to James. But it was the right play nonetheless. Baldini still standing with one. Smart of them as well to not try it as a two-man. Leave one standing inside the house to have that little bit of survivability, because James running across there, not being spotted out the ascent, wasn't a given either. I'm very surprised he even made it to that rock.
The only reason he does make it to that rock is because he knocks Chris with the links, right? He just turns around, bops him in the head or in the upper body, and it takes him down. So Ascend is a little bit too busy. Now, though, Paint opens up on Gedrock, so that's actually a big knock for Ascend, because they would love to dislodge GG here. If they could get a second one, or if they could at least get the flush onto Gedrocks, that would be massive for Ascend. There it is. Chris picks it up. And just like that, they're not hopelessly outnumbered here anymore. They will have to make a move next circle. And they will probably try and delay until then. But that's actually a big frag going down against GG, who were looking like they were in firm control as well.
I mean, the question is, can they really finish the play they just knocked? Or can they really do something with it? Because Ascend at the same time can't really leave the buildings just yet. And that's kind of like the main problem. I think they already flushed him. Never mind me, I must have missed it. So they'd already flush him. Never mind me, that's a massive flush for Ascend, as you said. They can't leave the buildings just yet. I don't think they want to, because they know that the James is on the distance. Now Baldini at least is out. That leaves just one angle left wide open. But in a matter of seconds, that's going to be going as well. Zone is going to move towards the rock of James. As soon as that's finished, I'm looking at that new zone, and I'm like, who's even got cover in this new one? Right? I don't even think GG has got anywhere to play except for the position that Xsense is in already.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what they made it out. They got two cars though. They could drive it just below the ridgeline of Ascend. I think that's what they're going to do as well. And I think they will have to any second as well. The question only is, who's got angles on this? Who's really got any survivability in this open field? Maybe Win or Die. Maybe if they have a couple of cars as well, they can get themselves into a position where they can hurt GG as well. They will make it towards the first tractor. There's something that might hurt the rest of the teams, but Chris is already there to deny at least one of the players. And there's Rock's already down.
Yeah, this is super tricky for Win or Die as well, because they have another team on the north. There's Freeside activating, taking them out. GG now shifting down to the ridgeline. Ascend mighty busy with James on the other side. They want to pick up that kill, and GG says, no thank you, that is ours. Now Ascend has a decision to make. Are we just hunkering down in the building, or are we getting aggressive on GG? I'm not sure how the util is looking. But if Ascend just have a few nades, a blue zone, anything, I think they just blow up GG here. You don't really want to be playing into the open field if you can avoid it. The question is, will that util land? Will they be able to knock him down? And if not, then you got to delay for as long as possible. You got to hope, well, if we're not playing the ridge, if we're not killing the ridge, then at least we have to wait until GG can't play it either.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the point, right? Freeside is nowhere to go. Freeside is going to be the team that has to move first. And as soon as Freeside moves, either GG is going to be focused at them, or they will make it in, which GG is probably never going to let that happen. So I think Ascent actually probably still in the driving seat here. They're the last team that really has to move away, and they're the best team in terms of vision right now. GG's not really in make distance right now. It's Chris has even got a Panzerfaust later on to be able to take down some of the GG players if they do need to get up to close range. But at the moment, it doesn't seem like GG's putting a lot of pressure onto Freeside. That's the one thing I'm surprised at. But once again, Freeside doesn't really have anything to play in the new circle. So maybe they just wait this out. Maybe they just wait this out and wait for Freeside to really have to move across that ridge. And you can see it. There's nowhere to play for them. As soon as the circle moves, and Freeside's going to have to be the first team to move, Gaming Gladiators definitely going to get these frags.
I'm honestly thinking if you're Ascend right now, you get the smokes out, right? You got to get that smoke line out because any second that you can save yourself from moving into that open field is absolutely massive. Paints finds one onto GG. That's a big knock. Chris, he doesn't have a DMR anymore because he is using the Panzerfaust, tapping away with the AUG. Finds one, looking for the second, lines it up. One more bullet. Yes, there we go. Chris finds himself 2. Ascend pick up 2/3 of Freeside, and now they can focus their attention over. And that knock from Paints should have bought them so much time against GG here.
Yeah, really well played. They know this is the ridgeline to play.
Look at the bullets.
And they can leave really, really late. Leosh being spotted out in the distance. He was already knocked, flashed out. Now Levante is in front of the ridgeline now. He didn't make it back. And look at this. Accents is being knocked down as well. It's just one left standing for GG at this point. It's Levante with the backs against the blue zone. And now Ascent is starting the push. Already one shot, 18 damage through the smokes. They do have that Panzerfaust as well. I'm just wondering, when is it going to get used? Never mind, it did already. But they haven't found the player just yet. Plays up close, throws a couple more flashes in. He really wants to take him down. He knows he's flashed behind the cover. He takes him down and Ascends. Oh my lord, what a comeback. We'll take it with 9 frags for their team. It's been an important win for them. It's been a win that they have so often not been able to get center zone, being the best position almost the entirety of the game, and then still throw it away. That didn't happen this time around. It almost did when Brexco went down, but unfortunately, not only the zone, but also the team play working out there in the end. And man, as an Ascent fan, I was already worried for the majority of the late game yet again.
Big steps ups as well. Paints getting a ton of knocks in that late game, and then Chris picking up a lot of the frags. I think he ran out of bullets there as well. Then he shot the Panzerfaust. He got a few more bullets back. Chris is the one that took the majority of the kills, but Paints continuously getting knocks on GG without getting knocked himself. Just bought them so much time and so much pressure. You could even see it there in the end. GG just didn't have the time to make a play. They were stuck behind that ridge. Just barely gotten the res off and just not enough resources and time to make a move there. So really, really important fights. Really important knocks from all of the team, and then good discipline on them as well. Make sure James goes out first. Make sure we get the smoke wall out. They take their time with it, and they clean it up. This was a big question mark for me, though, Felix.
Yeah.
The FaZe clan, they were getting run over by Eternal Fire completely.
I mean, it's very uncharacteristic for Fex to lose a lane fight like that. He was kind of peeking around the corner in third person, and Code Marco was essentially 5 meters walking along the side of the building, essentially spotted out already. I mean, I can only assume Fex was kind of focusing on something else and wasn't as close to the corner of the wall as he maybe should have been, but he didn't spot him out whatsoever, and Marcus just walked in, peeked around the corner, and took him down. So I'm really surprised the way they did it. And then Mogor, also, I have to highlight Mogor. I mean, I totally was focused on James at that point in time, but Mogor, once again, with clutch after clutch after clutch. We've seen this in the qualification stages as well. Yeah. This guy's not to be underestimated. He's an incredible player individually, and yeah, yet again, securing 3, maybe even 4 frags for his team.
Yeah, solid game from them. A solid game for a lot of teams that were sort of fighting their way on through it, right? Eternal Fire is one of the ones we've seen as well. Yeah. Just cleaning up all the remainders of that Tumasera side. Yes, it doesn't get them into super late game, but it gets them a good game 1 and a good start to the game. Shout out to GG as well. I was very sure they would just deny at the end there, especially when they're 1v3, but, you know, an honorable man takes the fight, dies to, I think it was Chris in the end, even though the chances weren't looking super good, but they tried their best, and honestly, they had the harder position. They had the harder position to play on, and we saw them use some util, right, to clear out that blue 2 story. If one of the Ascend players gets caught in that molly, then the game is looking very different. Then suddenly GG might be winning out on this one. So they took their chances, they played their odds, and it was enough for a second place, so big respect.
Yeah, I think if that knock wouldn't have happened very early on, I think 2 phases before the last one, I think phase 7, phase 8 was the last phase we had. 2 phases before that, that one Nate did, if that wouldn't have hit, I think GT would probably have won that game as well. But, I mean, the same thing could have been said about Brexco going down that early. Either way, Senna's going to pick up the first game. It's an important one. As we said, right, they like to choke some of these games that they're supposed to win. This time around, very early rotation, good split. The defense was a little bit crumbling there from when Baldini, tried to make that way inside the compound as well. But apart from that, just brilliant play.
Brilliant play. That was game 1, and we'll have 3 more brilliant games for you in just a few minutes. So don't go anywhere. We'll go for a short break, and we'll be right back.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. Real life, main stage, tear it out, rebels. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot.
Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players' Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players' Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Be a player.
Welcome back, everybody. After match 1 being explosive, we have match 2 on the cards here, Alex. We have a leaderboard to talk about. We have a match 2 being ready for you guys in just a few minutes. And yeah, I mean, like we said, right? We've had harder wins for Ascend, but they clutch it out, they clean it up. Nice, easy 19 points.
Easy. I mean, that's a first. German team winning, and it's 2 German commentators. I don't think that's ever happened in all the years I've casted PUBG. Whenever I cast Ascend, they seem to be doing absolutely horrible. So I'm very excited to see them start off like this. 19 points in a great fashion as well. Let's be honest, wasn't the hardest game for Ascend that they've ever won. Just put it like that. They definitely have been supported by the zone after phase 3, but it was kind of a given. Kind of given by the way they rotated. They knew and took their chances. There are certain types of circles you just have to take the prior positions in, and that was one of them. So Ascent playing it smart from start to finish. GG, on the other hand, a little bit of a tougher road, but as a result of that, I'm really seeing a lot of teams towards the western side either, and I think that kind of worked against them to some degree as well. Only 6 frags here, despite making it that far into the game. It's going to hurt them just a tiny bit.
Yeah. It's still a solid start, but they would have loved to pop off a little bit more there. Again, just taking a few knocks too many, especially that one that got flushed out by Ascent. Remember, right? Paints gets the opening knock, Chris gets the flush with the nade, and just like that, you're on the back foot again when you finally try to get yourself in a position to close out the game from. Then, free side, barely talked about them at all, right? But 11 frags, or 11 points, solid performance coming out of them, coming from that hill compound, making their way on in, picking up 6 frags along the way. Can't be disrespected.
No, definitely not. Facing up there again as well. Right, win or die, turn or fly. All the teams that we kind of expected to do well in this game again. Faceland, kind of surprising to me, despite that big hiccup they had inside Chumacera, where they really didn't win that fight in any sort of fashion. They didn't even put anything up towards that fight. Not even James was able to help from the hillside that he was covering their teammates at. Still getting 7 points though. And I think that's mainly due to the reason that they were able to kind of bully belief off of that hillside that they rotated down into Chumacera, at the start of that city fight. And I was very surprised that actually happened, because Relief was originally in the position that FaceClan was in, and they held that really, really solidly. Yes, it was a split. They had one player down the compound just below them, but usually that's a really tough hillside to get breached at. Right, it's really tough for FaceClan to kind of cross that distance. They're all out on the open, and FaceClan only had 2 vehicles at that point. And Belief still tried to make it down the hillside. In that process, then only Max was able to kind of shoot them in the back and take them out from the vehicles below. But I think that's part of the reason that we maybe see some of these qualifier teams not perform as well as we expect them to, because any partner team would never ever give up that position. They would rather fight for FaceClan with a straight up rotation towards them than kind of drop down and maybe even get shot in the back like it happens. So I'm hoping to see a little bit more confidence from some of these teams, and maybe the leaderboard is going to look different then.
Again, we talked about it before the games, right? There's not that many chances. We're playing 12 games here, so teams who have to figure this stuff out and have to get into the right sort of balance between aggression and passiveness and confidence coming into the games, they're going to have to do it quick. They're going to have to do it tonight, and you can't skip a full day. You can't just have a slow start. It's not how it works. you might come back on day 2 and you might start fighting for top 8, but you're never going to fight for the top spots again. So
Yeah.
we're going into game number 2. We're going into map number 2, and we're going over to Tago. So I can't wait. We should stop the yapping and start the game.
Ladies and gentlemen, second playing path. We had a little bit of a surprise in the first one, in the first match that we've seen. Plenty of teams not really deciding, or rather not really sure on where to drop. Monty being completely free, as an example. And as a result of that, it also significantly changed the outcome of the game, as we said, right? GG having a rather clear side towards the western side of things, while everyone else was kind of grouped up, stacked up towards the eastern side of things. So maybe the same is going to happen here. But I do see a lot more spread now on Tago. Obviously, it's a little bit more spread out in terms of the different loot spots. And on first glance, as said before, no one really contesting just yet. Maybe towards Terminal. I'm seeing Baldini in 9 away, going rather close, but 9 away, flying a little bit of a 2-2 split does indicate they're not going for Terminal anyways.
Not looking like it. Gonna be a bit of a north and east of terminal split for 908. Leo's looking a little interested in free side there. Looking to see if he can take some vehicles away. And then phase in a classic Buksan Sa with James looting a few compounds split off to the west. Circle is straight onto Yongchong, straight onto Foot. We haven't even reached their loot destination just yet, and it's looking like another classic one of those 80%, maybe even 90% northwestern shifts. But we are still probably going to see some teams try and control the bridges here and not instantly commit to the north.
Yeah, Foot Esports out of all the teams has probably got the most amount of decision room in terms of where they really want to commit to. You can see HC still being a little bit detached from the rest of his teammates. That's something that we've seen plenty of times, though, whenever Foot Esports does get this shift, and they're looting towards that northern side of the river. It's good information play. You can always exit it, and you can, if you do want to split it, still do that. But I think he's gonna group up any second now as well. Apart from that, to be honest, kind of a horrible circle for most, if you actually look a little bit deeper into it. The west, all the way towards the west bridge, not even in. I think there's like 7-8 teams towards the southern parts now that might need to cross one of the bridges in the next couple of phases, which might pose a problem in the first place. And then there's Go Next, which in theory, if you're Slam right now, you have to be careful of crossing the bridge too as well now. So definitely going to be an interesting thing. The one team that it does favor, apart from Foot Esports and Win or Die, is Ascent, though. That will be one of the only teams rotating over towards the army base on the northern side of that big hillside that we see the circle center. So they will have all the breathing room towards that northern army base positioning.
Yeah, it's been interesting because Ascent is going to swing to that northern side as we see 8C being pressured there a little bit, hopefully pulling off. Hopefully getting out of that, but he's looking to stay in. He's looking to stay aggressive. So this is going to be Foot keeping their ground. He was ready to dodge, but 908 dodges faster. I was talking about Ascent. Ascent is coming in on that northern side, right? And they'll have tons and tons of space available in front of them. But they also have one team that's going to compete, and that's the EP. That's a team Ascent doesn't even know about. GG is going to land north here, and they're very likely going northeast for cars. And if they see that there's not a whole lot going on in Army base, then they can take that entire space away. So Ascent taking their time here, not contested by any conventional rotation routes, right? Those teams would have been much, much slower because they're so late on the plane path and they're so far south. Not contested by them, but contested by a really early EP from GG. So it's going to be super interesting to see how that northern side pans out and how many cars GG is really able to pick up. Because if Ascent gets army base, then GG really is left with maybe 3 vehicle spawns on the rest of the entire northern side, and suddenly their game doesn't look as rosy.
Yeah, I think EP just in general, I think that's probably like the smartest choice you could ever have in this type of circle. Second is this. Like, how is he doing this? Winkley gets another one with the support of his teammates. Baldini is completely destroying a ton of fire right now. Not even one player has been taken down in the entirety of this fight for Baldini. Winkley was very close there to being taken out and flushed, but didn't happen. And Baldini will start off the game with 3 frags, and that's That's exactly what I was talking about, right? A lot of these teams now rotating in from the southern part. We're left to decide, do I go early, do I go late? And as soon as two teams make the same decision, take the same bridge, you're definitely going to drive into each other, and that's exactly what happened. And if you're as aggressive as Baldini that you're spotting out the first player, someone picks a fight with you, it might be over very, very early on. And that's definitely a way too early exit for any fan of Return of Fire, at least for their liking. Next fight might just come up as well. We're not die. Looking at plenty of teams in the distance there as Slam G breaches the compound of Go Next. We'll see if these two teams want to coexist. For the time being, both could still opt to rotate out of this. It's getting dangerous.
This is a little sauce. Slam G here with 4 members up, full numbers. Go Next, they're a duo at the moment. Not an easy cross, not an easy transition from the southern side to the northern, especially because Win or Die does exist and does see that, but Artix is going for an extra angle, going for the hillsides, I think. So they don't even have to take control of the north side of the compound. I'm not sure how aware Slam G is. I'm not sure how much info they had on the whole situation before breaching, but they're gonna get that info now with Artix cruising around, looking for a few cars. There is a world where Go Next rats this and tries to catch Artix off, but I think there's also a good chance that Slam G is just able to figure out the situation and just reconsolidate, figure out a plan, and deal with it.
We're about to find out. Next rotation came in from Nanaway as well. We'll find themselves a good little compound towards the northeastern side of things. It's definitely a good place to be in phase 1. Lots of possibilities to kind of, rotate. Doesn't really matter where the shift happens. If it's a far west, you can kind of just rotate towards the northern streets. Most likely all the teams on the northern side will take an early rotate through these streets as well. And if it does go south, you've got good information with obviously the rest of the hillsides towards your west. So we'll see how it works out for them. Nanaway hasn't really shown us too much so far. Last game has been rather weak from them. And the qualifying stations, they have shown us glimpses of brilliance, but just nothing really to the consistency of the face clan that we see right here. Still roaming around Terminal, by the way. And little do they know, there is actually a player right in front of them. Ketba sneaking around Terminal as well. And Ketba is the last player from EF, so if he sees someone, he's never going to take that fight.
He's going to take an instant flush as well. He's not even going to try to make that a big fight. Now, Slam G getting a knock on the other side of the map. Onto Baldini. But they are pulling up on the warehouses instead. They're taking the damage here. Paidaros nicely drive by. 10 HP before the breach is even made. He's almost taken out of the picture. And it's just Max in the second warehouse. How much can he do? Really, 4 man. 3 of them in his face. Magora holding across. And Slam G, they're not pulling any breaks. They're just running this down. Easy cleanup for them. Knocking one on the south and instantly breach in the north. Big aggressive moves coming out. They listen to your motivational speak in the break, and they're just instantly pulling through with it.
I mean, that's, incredible play, quick thinking. Very consistent as well in terms of the way they took these in fights. And they make it work. First team eliminated out of this lobby very early on. Phase 1 still. But I'm more worried about FaZe Clan at the moment. Because Ketba is still in a great position to maybe catch one of the players off guard any second now. It's only James. He might have actually heard the rest of the players rotating off. He must have heard that. So maybe he's going to try and catch James now. He's going to rotate right next to... Oh my lord. He's actually going to stop. Just an exploding over. Ketba is surely going to peek out now. Ketba, he's taking his time though.
No way.
He's taking his time, or he might have just missed out on the opportunity to take down James. This is an interesting decision. This is interesting. I think he was split between, do I take the risk now to shoot at the player driving off? Because if I miss, I'm just going to get breached by a multitude of players. We'll be taking now 0 points. But, he missed the timing. FaZe Clan rotating away.
That's so crazy to me. I understand that he doesn't want to risk it at all, but you have to understand, right? Like, being alive as a solo in this game is very likely not even a point. It's very likely to... I'm not even making it into phase 3 here or something along the likes of that. So I would have loved to see him just look a little bit more for the kill, but he really was hoping that he would get spoon-fed one. So different approaches. Each of them can work, each of them can fail, but we knew that he had a really good chance to take one there for himself. 10 seconds until phase pops. I already see a few EPs going on. Win or Die pulling one, an ADR. This one's beautiful, Felix. This one's beautifully timed. Even if this zone does go south, which it probably won't, they would be ready for it. And now they are the first team in the air to hot drop whatever compound they want. If they want to go for something middle here, they can easily figure out something that's free or something that's approachable, and they can basically get a pick of it. So, yes, they're very late to this zone, but they've really made the best out of it, and they've really made the best out of a bad situation. So, perfectly timed EP is a super powerful tool in almost every circle.
I'm anxious to see where they go now, because I think technically with the order water in, like the best position would be somewhere around GG. Maybe more drop that compound. I think that's what they're going to go for as well. They're actually looking to go for these drops, maybe a little bit more than the compound itself, but rather into the forest first of all. But be that as it may, yeah, as you said, great place to be. You don't even necessarily need the cars, and looks like they are going to prefer the drops. I guess they're going to prefer the drops, which is, you know, fair enough. Which is a great place to be. I don't think they're perfectly covered by the trees, but they must have spotted almost no one while they flew there, so I think that's part of the reason why they actually committed to it, because as you can see, right, it's rather safe getting down there and actually taking all the loot now. So, yeah, they're definitely going to be stacked. Whoever team is going to meet them towards the forest in the next couple of phases has to be careful now. Ascent, though, on the other hand, we talked about these rotations. We talked about Freeside and 9 away especially as well. We'll camp for some of these, actually. I thought there was going to be rotations towards the northern side. I didn't think it was going to be Ascent, though, waiting for these. Yes, Circle Shift heavily against them, but I still thought they were going to take some of the pride that they've been given towards the northern side to secure themselves as a position inside the forest. Didn't happen, though, and as a result, they will at least be rewarded by one frag.
Gonna Die, meanwhile. Looking for Bushido, looking to get aggressive out of that compound. The nade's beautiful. Wow. Oh my god, he gets the reknock and he gets so much damage. 99 onto Crossberg. He's dancing around. He's dodged the other two, but there's a third. Hello, my bad says good night. And we are not sticking around. We're not hanging out in that compound just getting spoon-fed circles. We're going out for these kills. Super aggressive from Win or Die. If you've seen them on the map, they're sitting in one of the best compounds in the circle, but that's just not enough for them. They are hungry. They are thirsty for the flushes as well, and just like that, Bushido caught completely off guard and decimated here.
Incredible play. Really important for them to not lose a player right there. Ascent keeps on going, though. Look at this Freeside. They've already taken a player from that team, and they will just hunt this down. Kilyakai, just in the middle of 3 plays, has to be careful. He's running with the car. How is he still alive? That's great play coming out from Kilyakai. Almost takes out one of the players. Now the teammates are chiming in. How does he have the survivability that he just had right there? Incredible. He could have just gone down right away. Doesn't. Hides, waits for the rest of his teammates. And as a result, Ascent takes them down one by one. I was worried for a second there for Kilyakai, but he played it absolutely perfect. He lets the car run even. And as a result, talked about this before, Ascent, very consistent today. Takes 4 players, actually. 4 players down in phase 2. This is a good start again. If the Ascent that we know keeps going like this, has the confidence that we were talking about at the beginning of the tournament, that's a dangerous Ascent.
Love to see it. That was quite sexy from Keely there. Just the timing on the peaks as well, making sure he's not fully giving them the freedom. He's not just hiding behind the car, letting them figure out what they want to do. He's also peeking back at them, being a bit of a threat, being a massive anchor of attention, right? He's just pulling their attention towards him, and then Chris can come up from the side and just clean up. And Brex as well, I talk about this way too much, right? But they kill one of Freeside earlier, and then they hunt them down because they know it's a 4v3. They know they have a glider with overview. They just know this is one of the best fights we will ever get this game. And look at the zone. They're happy to get every fight they can because getting into the zone is mighty hard. So they understand the cards they're dealt and they play them perfectly. Love to see it. Meanwhile, compounds in the center, Win or Die, Slam G, GG to an extent, all super powerful in the circle because there really isn't that much to play.
Metabase's looking for a position. He did find a shack as well, which isn't going to give him a lot of playing room, but it's at least going to give him survivability. Max goes back in the glider. And they have made their way around that big wrap towards the western side. I'm surprised there weren't more teams somewhere around that western side. I thought they were shooting going to drive into someone at the very least, but it didn't happen. And it looks like they're going to find a rather easy entry. Hope is in front of them, yes, but I don't think that's a full Hope team, at least not grouped up. So Ascent right now with a good spot to be in. Lots of information now as well. Yes, the circle is moving. They're not going to find a centralized position whatsoever, but they will find a position somewhere close to the circle they can fight their way in. Now they see the whole players too. They only see 2 casts. It's big information right now for Ascend. And maybe with the confidence they have, they might just engage this. Itzker is going to be the first one together with Haynes, but no, Oba's going to dodge this. They will leave this here, and look at this, Ascend, I love it. This is the confidence I was talking about. If you're Ascend right now, you win the first game, you immediately pick up 4 more points. You're hunting the players. If that's not a full four-man team and you can isolate them, you're hunting these guys.
It's a little easier when Brix is in the skies, though. We just saw his glider crash there. I think he actually did get blown up by Hope. The rest of Hope players trying to cover as much as they could. So Brix goes for the landing, sticks it, and is now just a normal infantry soldier, which is a bit of a downgrade for Ascend. They now have to get this information the old-fashioned way, just actually scouting it out and not just surveying from the skies. Ketba's still in this. 26 first aids, no biggie, no problem. I'm not sure if he makes it into zone, but he can out-heal a whole lot of the blue on his way on there. So he'll be around for us, with us, for another good bit here.
Good stuff indeed. We've seen FUT Esports play this type of play in Tago very often as well, right? They love to stick to the forest. They love to play a lot of these circles on foot with as much isolated fights as possible. This round might be a little bit tougher though. GD on the other side and ADR with essentially maybe 4, 5 free airdrops right in front of them. So at least in terms of equipment, they will be at a heavy disadvantage. And now FaZe is chiming into the mix as well. That's Pixelic going down almost immediately. He's been such a heavy hitter for them in close quarter combat. But yeah, nades are hitting. And there's one more player for Esports. Just like that, out of the equation. Cuppy hits the ground, being flushed. And FUT Esports suddenly is rethinking that entire engagement.
I love that from ADR as well. They hot dropped into a spot, or EP'd into a spot that I wasn't super convinced by. You were a little bit wondering if that's how playable it is, how good it is. But the main thing about these center spots that aren't amazing to play is you gotta realize when to push out, when to get aggressive, when to make space for yourself. Now, they've done that. FaZe Clan, meanwhile, are looking to try and hold their own bit of ground. Marcel making the push. James is ready with a nade, but he might just have to peek up on this. Gustav is getting out angled here. It's a tricky fight for FaZe Clan. And it's a cheeky Ketba just arriving in the backlines with his little mountain bike. And if he's one to take out Mexi here, then suddenly this fight gets so much harder for FaZe.
It's about to happen any second. 9away's just driving through that smoke. Haven't been able to take down Sloy though, and somehow Sloy is able to take down Stonix. Excuse me, Infernix, but not Stonix. Luckily for 9away. The rest of his team is now suddenly grouped up against FaZe Clan. James peeks across the ridgeline, takes down the first player of Baldinini as they're about to fall apart as well, because FaZe Clan, with the positions they have, is surely gonna try and take down the rest of the teammates too. And there they go. 9away is even going to chime into the mix from the distance. Xizzle with a good catch shot takes down Marcel. James thinking twice now that he sees it in the kill feed about running and closing the distance to that down player, but he's going to make it happen either way. Picks up the frag, and FaZe Clan, a very solid play here in a very tough scenario, being surrounded by plenty and plenty of players, is able to pick up 2 more frags. Fexto still in a little bit of a tricky scenario. We can see it on the map. The player that did put him there is now rotating into the circle as well.
Mexi flushed as well from the links there. We saw ADR taking a whole bunch of space on their eastern side. Northwest is looking feisty as well. Belief will stay true here for at least in the few seconds. Remember, win or die. They've been pushing out of this compound early. Now they're pushing out late again. Looking to clean up whatever they can find. Halomai out on the angle. Finds the entry. Tabby last one up. Stuck between a rock and a hard place here. If he goes north, GG is waiting. If he goes south, Win or Die are hunting. Not looking good for Belief right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if Win or Die actually do close this out. They can slow things down now, see what the circle does. But if they ever feel so inclined to get these kills, and I think that circle is the go signal for them. It's go maximize your kills, because moving into any position here won't be pretty, won't be easy. So Belief probably under a lot of pressure here in just another few seconds.
Dreams does realize that might have just been his best spot at making anything happen in this game. Now he needs to cross the road. However, Ascend is fighting down on the other side of the street. Or rather, the other end of the street. And there's more fights right in front of them. So maybe FaZe can actually cross the street. Ediana, meanwhile, those are going to take them all of 9 away. Drove straight into the belly of the beast. There was absolutely zero chance for any of them, let's be real. 3 players down in a matter of seconds. And just like that, the scenario now where FaZe Clan may potentially can third party that fight is gone almost immediately. I thought it was going to go longer than this, to be honest.
Send on the breach meanwhile. Chris finds one. I'm not sure how much they know about this compound either. Lurik's down, but still one in the warehouse. Boostic is trying to make it work with the barrel. He's dancing around the angles. He finds one, doesn't connect instantly. He finds a second though. He does find 2, but the save is there from Pains and Chris. Power in numbers, but that was looking dicey for a second. I almost thought he would turn on the third.
Oh my lord.
Oh, if he has one more teammate there, then maybe that suddenly becomes doable.
I mean, we've heard, he's burst onto the scene, let's be honest. This guy, he's burst into the scene in terms of, like, his mechanical skill. And I've watched his stream a million times over, even some of his VODs. Just an incredible player, unbelievably skilled mechanically, individually. And it's exactly in these type of scenarios, he's just so dangerous. That was a perfect example of this. Almost makes it work against the entirety of Ascend. As you said, right, one more teammate might have changed the entire outcome of this fight. That's how dangerous some of these individuals are.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. But I love the aggression from Ascend though. Very clumped up, right? Very cohesive as a team. If they're just a little bit more spread apart there, then suddenly things are looking terrible for them. Now Chris already shifting out of the compound into the next team. These guys are rolling, Falix. They're just third-partying every fight they can fight. They're getting into things wherever they can. As the observing client is not being kind to us. That is Ascend pushing Win or Die and Bushido. And Ascend is now on 11 frags. They might not be 100% aware that there's still a Bushido player in the shack or behind the shack. But they're on 11 right now. They're feeling pretty good at the moment.
Incredible stuff coming out from Ascend. It's been definitely a road for them in the last 51 hour. 50 minutes to 1 hour is what I mean, because they've yet to meet any real opposition. And I mean, I talked about last game, right? That was a little bit different than this one. Didn't have to take that many fights towards the edges. They didn't have so many isolated fights, but right now they almost have exclusively isolated fights, and they have to make it from edge to edge. That's typical Ascend play that we've been seeing them struggle with so much. That's just worked out perfectly so far. There's barely any third party towards them, though. We do have to talk about this as well. And there's barely been any 4-man teams right in front of them. Right, the first one, if you think back towards the northern rotation, they caught one of the free side players before they actually made that 4v3 happen. Then, you know, that whole fight against Hope, were they able to isolate 2 of the players. And then, obviously here now, right, Win or Die, they had a couple of players that were already taken down before they engaged in that fight against them. So, Ascend, not really yet meeting the strongest opposition in these games, but they'll make it happen anyways, and that's also what they've been struggling sometimes, right? Losing players unnecessarily. So this is a good sign for Ascend. They've got the confidence now. Whether or not they can finish it a second time, I guess we're about to see.
Love to see this from ADR as well. They also are on 11. Hicks is on 7 himself. Wow. Crazy scenes and all that, right? From doing nothing for phase 1 and timing the EP correctly into phase 2. That's all they needed to get themselves in a position to be playing such an absolute banger of a game from. And I think it goes to show how powerful that tool is when it is used correctly. And it also shows that they played their cards right afterwards. Flexing out to edges. We saw them punish foot, right? And we saw them even third-partying the phase fight from range a little bit. So playing it perfectly. Turkin now mollied out the shack. And just with the second player there, no problem at all for Ascend. Their team play is looking so good right now. Like you said, right? Nobody getting flushed. This was a huge weakness for them in the past weeks. It's looking clean right now.
Pretty good stuff. Gajos goes down. It's Chris. Makes it 10, maybe even 11 frags right now for Ascend. Just dominating the playing field right now in terms of points. Not enough to have any fear just yet. And terms of, you know, some of these top competition, the usual top competition leaders like FaZe Clan having to be scared just yet, but it's definitely a massive amount of points that they've gathered in these first 2 games. Already in this point, the second game isn't even finished. Kilyakai makes that rotation happen. A very far nade might give him some trouble. That's insane. It's not even the nade, it's James that will take him down. That's going to be a great shot that we've just witnessed. Yeah, that's a really long-range shot. He isn't taken down just yet. Ascent could still potentially send one over, especially now with Brexco getting a couple of tags on towards James. Maybe they will use this to pick Kilyakai back up. I guess they don't deem it as worth it. Kilyakai was already bleeding out a lot, so there he goes. James is able to ruin the rounds, the hopes of Ascent, at least a tiny bit, as they will be reduced to just 3 players.
Bit of damage coming into Gustav in return, but nothing permanent just yet, as he has time to get the smoke on out. ADR losing 1 is big, as the rest of the lobby struggling as well. Circle not super kind, and oh my, Keppa is in here. Keppa is in the bush. I said the chances of him making it in aren't that good. I didn't know he was going to get 26 first aids, alright? I didn't think he'd just have the time to loot all of that up, but he made it in. He used all but 1. And now he's a sneaky snake behind ADR, behind GG. He's got another 15 seconds. He needs this fight to kick off now, because otherwise he's just going to have to walk in between both teams. And I'm not sure how good his chances are, but 3 placement points is already big for him.
Yeah, absolutely. ADR is now closing the distance, despite them being the strongest opposition in these rounds, or rather in these phases, excuse me. They are not inside the circle just yet, and they will need to cross a little bit more distance here. Levante is having a thing to say about that, though. Takes him down with a nade. Ubuki's being flushed out too. That makes it a 2v3 now, with Levante in another great position for potentially another nade, another knockdown against Sixers. He's got 7 frags already. We've seen this. But is it going to be enough to actually finish that game? Doesn't look like it just yet. Ascend in the meanwhile, not really making any sudden moves either. And then obviously there's Eternal Fire that could ruin the round for both of these teams. Just depends on when he activates.
No way.
Because he sees both of the players for GG Nerd now. Oh my lord, one's prone right in front of him. If he would only know, there's just 2 players left standing. I think he's looking for the third one, who he sees knocked down in the distance. And I think now he's going to at least cook the nades. Maybe it works. Nade box, first place, second player goes down to. What a performance! Eternal Fire salvaging as much as they can. Yes, they will be taken down almost instantaneously by Hickses, but that's a great play. That's exactly how you do something like this. You have 2 players in front of you. Use the nade for the second one, even though it wasn't really needed. That's a great turnaround, and as I said, salvaging as much as he can. That must have been 3, maybe even 4 additional points for Eternal Fire.
Love it. Love it from Ketba. Rough times for GG, but problem for them was as well, Layers getting knocked to James was actually such a big problem, right? Put him on the back foot and opened the door for Ketba to swing on in. Now ADR, 2-man, Ascend, 3-man, and James on his rock, on an island, far away from zone, a lot of ground to cover. Being a solo, things ain't looking easy, things ain't looking good. And with the way that the zone is shaping up, Ascent can slow it down here, Phalanx. They can play control. Brex has a good overview angle. He's going to see ADR when they start approaching. And as long as Ascent doesn't get knocked to James here, then they're looking pretty good in this.
Looking really good indeed. Would have expected that turnaround, but they just had to wait it out. No sudden moves. And suddenly 2, maybe even 3 more teams from when they originally pulled up are suddenly eliminated. But one nasty player just can't seem to fall down. That's James. Was already taken down. Kilyakai, unfortunately for Ascent, is now smoking his way inside once more. Doesn't even go for that rich line where 180 RS. He somehow wants to make it in more centralized, away from the 2 teams. Not sure if he sees a rock right there that I'm not seeing, but it looks like we're still alive for just another second. It's Chris. Keeps looking towards this northern side as well. 180 yards. Just need to move just a tiny bit more outside the forest too. Brexco spots out James though. And there goes the one player they've been looking for so very long. Does get taken out by Ascent. And then we'll make it 14 frags now. It's Chris on 7. Equalizing that scoreline that we've seen from Hicks.
Lovely stuff. The lovely X-ray toggle from the observer as well to show us what Brex could see and what he couldn't see. But the spam is clean. Gets a call that the player's leaving the rock and just keep spamming with the mini there. Akeem is trying to find an angle from the top. He's trying to find it before Brex sees him. If he crawls just a tiny bit further, Brex will spot him. So he's got to try and figure out what to do from here. It's not going to be easy. Hicks is spotted as well. Peppered down, but if Pains or Chris make any small misstep, Akeem's gonna try and take him out. But a few more centimeters forwards and his life is over. So playing with fire, now standing up. If Brex spots this, it ain't looking good, but Brex is on the reposition. Hicks is down on the other side though. 3-1 now, Alex.
Yeah, this doesn't look good. He looks the first one, doesn't get it though. The headshot just isn't enough, and Chris, together with Brexco, will finish off that round. It's an even better one, ladies and gentlemen, than the first one. We've seen 16 frags for his end. The German powerhouse has indeed activated. We said it before. First week didn't really go their way. They didn't even qualify. Second week, however, they almost took the first spot in that qualification stage that we've seen just last week. And this time around, they want to put things into a even better scenario for them in terms of the overall leaderboard structure. An even better game after the very first successful one that we've seen on Miramar. Couldn't be any better for them, and this is, as we said as well, right? This is the performance we need from an Ascent if they really want to get, towards the top players in the tournament. Start off strong.
Starting off strong, starting off confident. That was, they were rolling kids, right? They were running around, They were taking fights, they were taking them as a team, and then in the end game, they slowed it down to win the game. So perfect execution from them, looking just way better than everybody else they encountered, and you said it there, right? They didn't really find a good match. They didn't really find any hard issues, big teams to beat, but they were also looking for teams to fight. They were looking for teams that were looking weak. They were hunting everybody that looked weak, and that's what you should be doing, right? You shouldn't be taking the hard fights. You should be taking the easy ones. So shout out to them, and a small shout out to Kedbar, because I think he gets himself fourth place there, right?
Yeah, amazing. Fourth place, and I think that came down from like 2 frags maybe, and like a 7th or 6th place to like a 3rd, maybe 4th place, with with a bunch more frags. So great place coming out from Cat Park, but we got to give it up for we're gonna see it in a minute. We got to give it up for Boostic there. Almost looked like he took down the later game winners there in the skirmish. This is how it all started though, ladies and gentlemen. Ascent hunting down Freeside on their northern rotation. This was a very planned maneuver. They spotted out the first player, they took him down. As soon as they saw the rest of the rotation, they kind of converged on it, and Kilyakar with that great play, running with his moving car, is able to have the survivability to wait for his teammates to come in. And there we have it, Boostic, 1, 2, 3, absolutely insane. Absolutely nuts. Takes down Brex and Kilyakar, almost takes down the 3rd one. So, the game of clutches, to be honest, we haven't really seen that many clutches in a long, long time in a single game. Kepler right off the back of that.
13 frags in a second place for ADR as well. Off the EP, love to see it. I'm very triggered every time I see a badly timed EP, so I'm very happy to see a team time one well and get absolutely rewarded for it. So, huge game for them as well. We talk about Ascend here. They were dominant, they were aggressive, but ADR has 13 frags as well, right? We didn't get to see all of them because they were sort of in that period where everybody was dying on all of the edges, but they were constantly just prodding out, pushing out, taking a bit of space where they could, taking fights where they could, and rewarding themselves with a ton of frags coming into that late game. So beautifully played from them as well.
Yeah, we're about to see if that trend continues in the 3rd game, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, so far it's super dominant. As I said, I don't think these were the hardest games that we've ever seen Ascent win. Let's be honest here. However, and that's, I think, the big difference, especially to what we've seen in the very first week where they failed to qualify. They're winning the isolated fights, and that's just not been the case in the very first week that I specifically casted. It has been in the second week, but the very first week, which was, for us, kind of a showing on how SN has been playing TPP up until this point. So maybe that is indeed the practice. To come back to the argument we had at the very start of the broadcast, maybe that is indeed the practice now that is, kind of catching up with Ascent. More games, more TPP tournaments being played, and suddenly it works.
Love to see it working. Completely unbiased opinion. We are going to send you to a completely unbiased break, and when we come back, we'll have game 3 and 4 for you guys in just a few minutes.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. Real live main stage, tear it up, rebels. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot.
Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players' Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work.
We are back from the break and we have a game already ready for you guys. It is not time to Tego. Mark is not here. We are going to Rondo. We're going to game number 3. The plane's already in the air. Let's hop on over.
Ladies and gentlemen, he will be back next week though, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, he's having a little bit of a vacation. You know, he's got to take a break from PUBG every once in a while as well, so he can get back, come back fresh, come back stronger, so he can actually win some of the public games that we've seen him play on stream. More consistently, at the very least. So, yeah, just me being here as a stand-in. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go into the third game. It's going to be the second to last game that we're going to see today. 4 matches being played today, tomorrow, and the day after on Sunday. And at the end of it, $5,000 are up for grabs for the top spot.
5,000 USD, not bad. It's a chunk of change. And you can tell Ascend is hungry for it. Slam G and ADR sharing terminal test track. That's the sort of semi-hot drop that we're getting used to seeing from Twist and Navi or Twist and other teams on the global stage. So no big surprises here. No double plane on Rondo. Nothing crazy. Fairy Tail is back in the lobby. They have overcome their technical difficulties and they are now a 4-man. So we have 64 players in this lobby, and the game's being kind to them. They're giving them a dead center first zone.
That's a pretty good start. I'd say that's a pretty good start. Question only is, with how often we've seen Ascent now winning games, can they do it as well? One team that was deep center first phase last game, unfortunately couldn't. They do have a really strong performance, talking about 100 ADR. One team that's fighting now as well.
Fighting the car. Hicks is trying to catch up. Trying to not let that one run away.
Did get shot at by Slam G though, but I'm surprised that there was even a sideline, to be honest. I think that was because one of the players must have been like in between the buildings, just, you know, open for a very short, very brief period of time. But yeah, he has made his way back in. Slam G and 800 ADR. I don't think historically these two teams, at least in the looting phase, really want any piece of each other. It's more like this gentleman agreement, or rather this, you know, game sense that it doesn't really make sense for them to fight this early, especially on a phase like this.
This is a tricky one as well for Fairy Tail. Looking to scout out early compounds, but would hate to be losing a player this early on. And yeah, it's an interesting one. It's a very empty circle, right? Not a lot of teams in this one. Not a lot of teams landing anywhere close to it. So anybody who does go early finds himself with a lot of prio, a lot of compounds. But then you look at this map and you're thinking, well, what even is the prio? What even are the big compounds, right? There's no big city in the middle. There's no amazing compounds to be playing. Fairy Tail is playing some of the best ones already, but it's not super easy to pick what you want here. Bushido, for example, one of the teams moving super early, but staying fairly far towards that northern edge here. So it's not very clear for these teams what they want in the circle, and the dead center spots are not really spots. It's a swamp, it's some shacks, it's a one-story. So the dead center, not super attractive in this one.
Yeah, really tough, actually. I do agree with you. I think that's unfortunately for Fairy Tail a bad message about it. To be honest, I would have to think twice as well where to really center or where to really get pry on at the moment. I mean, obviously, best case scenario would be to get somewhat of a spot where you can still react on towards west and east side circle shifts. But as you said, right, it's tough to get it into any spot where you even have information, good sidelines, good positioning, good rotation paths as well. To kind of adapt on towards southern shift as well. Even. I think it's especially information. If you play deep center right now, information towards the southern side, the way the map works is going to be heavily limited. So, interested to see what Fairy Tail is kind of opting for. You can see them spread out in the center at the very least. So it doesn't look like they're going to group up anywhere, which is definitely the correct play to do. Maybe Mafatu 2 right now could be the solution to it. Just got to be careful. FaZe Clan is rotating in from the distance, and Eternal Fire somewhere far towards their east is still not quite content with that position either.
So tricky in these third-person early games to go for spots in the center, to try and figure out how many players are in a compound and how much presence is this team showing versus how many players did they actually allocate to the position. So tricky. FaZe, we've seen them do this on Miramar, and we said that they're sort of playing with fire. They're doing the same thing again here. They're getting quite aggressive just a bit west of this towards the remainders of Fairy Tail, and they're taking a lot of space away from them, spreading out of Jiao Tin, while other teams taking much more time. And ooh, Gustav pops a nice little heady out there with the SKS, looking to get more, maybe looking to pop a tire as well. But again, FaZe prodding aggressively, trying to figure out where are the weaknesses, where are these players at. They have to be a little careful with Will Not Die behind them, but I like the way they're approaching this. I like the early aggression.
Good shots coming out from under ADR. I think a couple of tags actually connecting there. Slam G does have the hillside now, and under ADR, with that rotation path, they have to be very, very careful. There's only one player rotating down the street, and that's Arctics, and he might just have perfect vision on the two players that will now still continue driving. I'm not even sure they're still alive at this point. Arctics get a headshot in as well. They might just drive away with this. There is no way they just survived this. There should absolutely be no way, but they will be. Driving away with this with all four players left standing. Never mind me. Lurix just now hits one, hits two. These are insane shots, ladies and gentlemen. That's a very far shot. Yes, these two players were essentially one shot in that car, but that's a nasty, nasty shot. That's very long range. And there's no way to save these whatsoever. Last two standing players will drive away into the distance. But, man, that was... you don't hit the close ones, you don't hit the easy ones, but you hit these, Lurix? Okay, man. That's just crazy.
Back to back as well. Just tap, 2 knocks, just like that. That's nice.
Keep
nice
his Twitter in mind, because he's going to post these for sure.
Yeah, but he's already dead now. Drives by Vard.
Oh.
Unluckily, he gets knocked out in a big bush. Stays alive in there for a bit. But undoubtedly going to be going out here in a matter of seconds. I say seconds, they're not going to find him. He's going to bleed here for a very long time. But one thing that I have to bring to attention is Brix has already died to the play zone, knock and flush. Not sure how that happened. I think he must have crashed and he must have ran off the map, which is not easy to do either. But that's a big problem for Ascend, and that's going to slow their momentum right back down. They were looking like they're going to run away with things. Now they're just facing this game as a 3-man.
Yeah, it didn't look like they were fighting at any point in time.
No.
So I guess that's what must have happened.
There was no blue zone at the time, so he must have literally ran or driven off the map.
Yeah, unfortunate. Very unfortunate for Ascend at the moment. They've been on such a run, and this is how you kind of deny yourself the third chance to get a chicken dinner. That's just, I mean, one of the worst case scenarios that you could ever find yourself in. Well, I'm over-exaggerating. Worst case scenario is just not winning 2 rounds in the first place, but at least now when you're on such a run, that's not how you want to end things. And Ascend is struggling with keeping Brexco alive in recent times. But enough of Ascend struggling. Maybe that's going to give plenty of other teams the chance now to maybe get a win as well. Not counting Ascend out just yet, but just positioning-wise, and them being down to 1 man is going to significantly alter winning probabilities now. As we head on over to Baldini, spotting out the first rotation. Big splits as well coming out from these guys. Essentially a 2-on-1, with one player still driving around. Good positions all around that road, that straight. But once again, I mean, you said in the first phase, when it originally popped, yes, you can be center right now, but it's not really going to give you much, right? Each specific circuit shift doesn't matter if it goes north, west, even if it goes centralized, doesn't really give you a winning position just yet.
Oh, I love this. I 100% agree with what you're saying, but I love what Hope is doing. They're seeing solo and they're trying to chase him down, and they're trying to get the aggressive play going, get themselves the compound, and look if they can get the frag as well. Not going to be able to get the frag for themselves there. Don't get confused by the minimap. Chris is just cruising above this in a glider, I believe. But I love this from Ascent, and I love this from Hope. You don't have to crash a center compound, but if you see a solo, you punish, you might get yourself the kill, and in the worst case scenario, you just get yourself the compound that the solo leaves you. So nice aggression, nicely timed aggression, and a good way into the zone there for Hope.
Yeah. Pretty good stuff. 17 seconds now until we have phase 2 coming in. And at that point, I'll be really interested to see who's going to take center circle in the next one. If there even is a good position to play here. You can really judge already who's got a good shot at this game. Even Facegun is really far spread out. This is a good one, though. This is a good one, at least in terms of good compounds that are open for taking. Go next now is good prio towards not only Hugh Lim, but maybe even some of the compounds towards up north. However, GG probably in one of the best spots. Likewise with Bushido, who didn't really have to rotate just about anywhere. They didn't even have a split going into this. They've just been absolutely blessed by the circle. And I think they will be grouping up in their compounds, despite them having power on some of the rocks and hillsides towards the north. Just about in this compound. I don't think they will move much.
Not in this zone, that's for sure. The real question is how much can they hold of their ground, right? FaZe coming their way, Fairy Tail coming their way. Could easily see one of them just pull off a little bit to the west and play that more garden side of area. FaZe wants to play the outside walls. It's a very just established position. We've seen plenty of teams go for it. It's one of those positions where you're very, very good until somebody has a mortar, then you're suddenly in a world of hurt. Eternal Fire finds one on Kiliakai. Looking like they maybe rat that compound, win or die. Meanwhile, trying to hold that high ground versus Belief. And Ox is playing with a bit of fire, but Presenti's there to help. And win or die will hold on.
Shots against Iskras now. It's worked before against Brexco. What? Oh my lords! That did not just happen. What a shot coming out from Iskras. Oh my word. That's disastrous. It's just one player left standing now. It's just the man. His position is given away as well. He does take down Pains though, which might bring back the advantage just a tiny bit. He wants to turn on fire. Oh, he spots him out through the bush. Iskras has to be careful now. It's a 1v1 right here. He spots him, takes him down. No, he doesn't. He gets taken out beforehand though. Did he? I think who took down who? That was so close.
Yeah, everyone died. Hibaku's on the rock, and then Go Next is looking over from the top, so everybody gets absolutely blasted there. Ascend, I think they get away with 2 of the kills, or maybe 3.
2 at the very least.
And then Eternal Fire gets himself, I think, 2 as well. But I mean, that was
what a shot.
That was not doable until Chris absolutely sat him down. So bit rough there for Eternal Fire, who were, I think, setting a trap in the compound as well. Keep in mind, they were a 4-man, and they got a full opener. What is going on with Wubuki?
Oh, he's just gliding through the map.
Yeah,
that's got to be the most stylish frag I've ever seen.
He's
okay, ladies and gentlemen.
I thought he wasn't even here. I didn't even react because I thought it was a bug.
Yeah, I thought he was like posing as a statue with like an emote or something.
Sometimes there's a bug where if a player's in a car, he will be sitting around in the air somewhere else on the map. And so he's not actually there. He's just sitting in the air. And I thought that's what that was going on. But no, he was actually just vibing out. Just getting himself ready and picks up a freebie.
Yeah, gotta be one of the most stylish frags I've ever seen in esports. Sure, why not? Sets him down. Not a chance anyways. He could have been in any sort of emote position. Yeah, he was not prepared for anyone to be in there. I'm sure it did look different on his screen. Are we getting a replay of that? Okay, I was about to say we're getting a replay of the stage frag. No, we're getting a replay of Iskras shutting down Easy 4. What a shot again. I mean, you can't really do much against it, right? Because at the end of the day, it's actually advantageous for Iskras to be up there because you're stationary and he's not. Right? For Iskras, it's actually technically, not saying it's an easy shot, but it's technically just a tiny bit easier to hit that shot than it is for him some of the times. But yeah, Iskras, definitely not an easy one to hit either way. Takes him down, saves his team another another kill point. Almost another one. Based off the back of that. But I think one is surely going to be enough for him in that scenario. Them losing Bresco at the start of it kind of was the downfall anyways.
Yeah. Would have been a different game if they had 4. Phase 4 comes in now, Felix. Big rock in the middle. What does it mean? It's got to go away from that rock. And most likely the circle will just fit in on that eastern side. So that's why we see breaches there already. We see a few teams who are deciding to still play against the land ratio and stay on the western side for frags there. But FaZe, they want a good position and they want to take it right now. And they've already done that, right? Instant breach into a compound that should get the circle next zone. And they're going to keep 4 up there and they're going to play a good game out of there.
Fairy Tale. Originally circle center, now rotating into the southern side. Will find themselves a nice little plateau here to play. Don't think they're going to stay for long. But it's a nice spot to play. SlamG on the other hand, they're looking for any kind of real estate they can find. One player's already made his way inside the compound, has been taken out by FaZe Clan almost immediately though. That was Artix. Not mistaken, but FaZe Clan not without casualties themselves. Gustav's actually taken down by Magor now. That's a great nade. Magor, great timing on that as well. James is being picked up in the meanwhile though. Brings it back to a 2v2, if I'm not mistaken.
That is
Look
crazy.
at this. GG on the outskirts. Potentially even ready for third party this. Depends on how long this really goes. And there's 3 sides towards the western side of things as well. Looking to get a piece of the action. Still, long distances, so I'm not saying this third party is impossible, but for the most part, SlamG could isolate this. They just gotta get a move on, I think. Gustav has been knocked. Lexi's now back up on his feet.
Ooh.
They're not really doing much with it, and if nades like that hit, it might just be game over for SlamG this point. It's just boosting left. He can do crazy things. We've seen it literally last game. But is it going to be enough for FaZe Clan stacked in the buildings?
I'm just not sure why SlamG is going for this in the first place. They lost the entry here, and then they still had the arguably better compound in the south with 3 players up. So I'm a little surprised to see them go so aggressively for this fight versus FaZe. Best case scenario, if there's a FaZe player still knocked, it's a 3v3 while you're breaching into a compound and getting blasted from outside angles. So it was never really a very beneficial fight, and they commit for it and they lose 2 members for it. Mogora not going to get picked up here by the looks of things either. Boostic already playing his own game. GG bleeding members on the other side. Everybody knows they want these compounds. Everybody knows the circle should be going northeast, east, and there's the circle we got, but it doesn't help you that much being in the circle when you're down to just boost it.
Yeah, unfortunately for them. They will be rewarded, but as you said, right, if you don't really have a place to back it off, not even that position is gonna give you a whole lot of potential points. Great stuff though for FaZe Clan. That's the perfect phase shift that they were looking for, and it plays right into their hands. They still got 3 players left standing. They knew if they just wait this out just a tiny bit, you know, Mogor and Boostic and the rest of them might not be able to push them. So it will stay the knocks that they've gathered, and they can just revive them. That's what happens. So now with that FaZe in a good position again to get a couple more points to close the distance to Ascent. Who else is trying to close the distance? That's Hope. But they will be denied by Apocalyptus, at least for the time being. But that pull-up does work out quite handsomely. But it's a 1-1 trade as Hope hits the floor.
Big Panzerfaust drive by. Now Belief is squaring off versus Fairy Tail. 1 left standing on Fairy Tail this April. Is he on the roof? I'm not quite sure. Belief is the one who EP'd into this. And it's bloody, but it's a success. 5 frags for them. Might be able to get one of the reses as well. I'm not sure. I think Hope is knocked so far out of the compound, actually, though. Gonna be tricky to get him back on his feet. Mercel is in there as well for Boldini. So an absolute mess of a compound breach. Multiple teams at the same time. But Belief stays true in it, and now they've got a spot to play. They've got to be in at least phase 5, and they've got 5 frags. And that game crash, I think Felix is absolutely shocked. Lost for words. No longer in it, but we still got a map stream going for you guys. Observer will be back in just a second. And I'll get to yap about the map more. That's what I prefer to do anyways. So, well, unlucky. We gotta watch the action now. We gotta watch some of the shots. Bushido on the south trying to... they're fighting for fairly lost ground here. They're fighting for spots in the circle that won't be in much longer and won't be relevant that much longer because the FaZe has gone north. But they are trying to get as many points as they can on the board here. But I do think we have Falex back on board.
Yes. Yeah, I had to realize what was going on there for a tiny second. Either way, nades are coming in now. Crossberg trying to stay alive for as long as possible. He does have the zone advantage, but he doesn't really have too much else. He does have utility, though. That might just save his bag. Sees the first player. He's taken down, though, and about with a great headshot. There is support, though, from the distance, and about is traded just like that. But what more can they really realistically do? Now the zone is on the back of both teams, and Bushido somehow is eliminated. That's the first one. As Hope looks to get more than just one frag, as they will indeed get all three, I think. But they're inside the blue zone themselves. I'm not even sure with how far the next distance is, if Ibako can stay alive for much longer. So it's going to be a tough road. 40 Esports, in the meanwhile, has rotated towards the very next ridge line. Kind of domino-esque playthrough from the eastern side, too. And that's worked out very, very well for them up until this point. Now, though, whatever move they will do in the next one is going to mean fighting.
Yeah. Gotta fight their way on in. North side, similar things. Free side versus win or die. South side, still hope versus go next. All these edges gonna blow up in a matter of seconds here. Oh, and if Dante finds one here, if he finds a head, if he could pop down Stacy or any of the other members, it ain't looking good, and it will be a win or die. Looking to just maximize kill points here because, again, you're not playing into these fields to survive. You're really, really hoping to get something going early, or you're out of luck. Foot making the move meanwhile towards 8C. Might run into Boostic here, but 8C should have a good angle to help him out with that fight, so Boostic shouldn't be able to do a whole lot, and Foot should claim a very, very nice foothold in the northern side here. SlamG going out. Cappy knocked out of the car, though. Might mean they lose a player. Yes, they do. Foot, good transition, but it's not a clean one.
Oh, that's a great shot against Cappy. One you can't really plan with. That's very unfortunate for Esports. If they would have had 4 players down there, especially with 8C holding the ridge line, I think that's just a great spot to be in. Definitely a lot of winning probability going the way of 4 Esports, or rather not going the way anymore. Unfortunate things. GG on the other hand, very happy about that. There's another team that's going to be reduced to just 3 men. I think there's almost not a single... Maybe there's not even a single team right now left standing with a full 4 men.
Yeah.
I think Freeside might be the only team, actually. Yeah. Freeside might be the only team. We're down to 9 teams. Everyone except for Freeside is already reduced to at least 3 players. And Freeside doesn't only hold one of the strongest ridge lines, they also have their entire backs clear. So Freeside definitely in the driving seat. But we also have a lot of heavy hitters right in front of them. FaZe Clan, 40 Esports all around you. That's a triangle. That's a love triangle you never want to be in.
Not the kind of love triangle you want to be in. 9 away. Trying to make their way on in. The boss is struggling, dancing around, but it's beautifully dodging the nades that way. Easy delay. Pre-nades not working out. And now, suddenly, a doable fight, but there is a Panzerfaust on the other side. Tabby knocks himself, but he does get at least one with him, and just like that, it ain't looking good for 9 away.
No, he hits. I think he hit like this little wooden stick right in front of him. You know, one of the wooden pillars of the building. Unfortunately, if that would have gone past the Panzerfaust, I don't think he would have been knocked. But it works out either way. And I think Tabby, the only one from Believe that hasn't been knocked up until this point, will stay alive for just a tiny second longer. Or maybe even much more than that, depends on how they rotate off. But Believe made it. There's another 3 frags going their way. It's a good position to be in on the overall leaderboard in general for a team that, once again, hasn't really had too much confidence. Especially in Miramar, what we've seen, they've been bullied away by FaZe Clan in that one. In a scenario that they should have definitely returned fire in. Now them winning duels like this is going to mean maybe a bit more confidence, a bit more isolated fights that they want to take, and that's what you need in order to advance on the overall leaderboard. We're looking at the circle now, once again, for Esports needing to move right into GG, and I think that's going to be the next fight.
There's a little bit of an instant replay on the self blow up. Yeah, there's the pole.
Yeah. Oh no.
Man.
Wow.
Sometimes things just don't work out the way you want them to. We were talking about free side a little bit. They have space. They have their side free. Not something we see a lot. But they will have to make a transition here. Into phase 7, into phase 8. They will have to make a move, and whenever the time comes, it might not be that easy. GG on the other side is making the push towards Foot, and Foot doesn't seem to be paying a ton of attention just yet. They're here in the steps now. They're pulling out the guns. They're pulling out the nades. They're reacting now, and it might just be in time here because they have to win this fight if they want to stay alive, Alex.
Good nade coming across. Varda's going to be first one to take down Leos. This is a great nade. Just in general, great nades from both sides. 8C is going to take down Gadjox as well. AUG in hand. Bob pushes across the ridgeline. Does get shot on the back though. And now it's just because Zadig left standing. Suddenly, this is falling apart for Food Esports. The same way it is for GG, and they will not survive this. Somehow, GG is actually going to fall after Food Esports has been taken out. But both won't survive for very long. GG 6th place as well. Not really lots of placing points between the two of them. And that's got to be frustrating to both, right? Running all this way, rotating all this way, just to be taken out like this in a third-party action from Freeside. It's got to hurt their chances. Both had a very good ridgeline to play off of, which now no one inherits, actually. Which in turn is a very, very great thing for Freeside. Them not having to worry about that ridge anymore means they can focus on all the other teams rotating in.
100%. And they pick up frags as well. Stacy picks up that one. Crazy picked up the last for GG. Now their side becomes a whole lot more powerful, and their push towards phase becomes a whole lot more doable as well, right? We said there's heavy hitters there. There's effects on the other side with 3 gear and an arm. Then again, he's already shot 6 on bullets, and he's got 100 ADR, so maybe not the most scary thing at the moment, but they have to work through this here, Freeside. They can choose to play outside on the ridge, but their low ground is eliminated, I believe, in this circle. So they would have to play on top of the dirt road. And that ain't looking good. That ain't looking nice. So would love to see them take on the fight versus FaZe Clan here, but they have a few choices to make. What is that?
Oh my god. Wow. Okay. Was that a full 4-man?
That's a 3-man.
Was it 3?
But that was perfect. What?
Oh my, that was the first shot as well, right?
First try. One tap.
Unbelievable. I mean,
And
that's just,
a perfect double blue zone on the other side. Triple.
Are just at such a different level. It's incredible. Triple. Blues it up. I'm sure how Wabuki was alive there for a second. He must have had a jammer backpack off the top of the first 2 blue zones. But yeah, that's not going to be enough. Belief. Just like that. Perfect utility play from both of these teams. Taking out the next opposition over and reducing it to just the top 3 now. FaZe Clan, Freeside, and Belief. Who would have thought these were going to be the last 3 teams?
And who would have thought they're looking so clean as well? Belief, Freeside, right? They're qualifier teams. They've scrimmed their way through these scrims, put themselves in a lobby, and, you know, if they go out in 14th at the end of the tournament, I say, honestly, nice for these guys to get this level of experience. But they're pulling up right now. Freeside looking good in this one. Looking feisty for the late game. They have now lost one. They have not decided to aggress FaZe. They have decided to shift into that space on the southern side that's been freed up. But man, if he does it again, Falix, there's no way, right? It's probably going to be a good mortar, but they already ran out of it. So no way he pre-fired into that trajectory. Okay, that's the kind of mortar I expect for the first shot, you know? That's the kind of accuracy I expect. So not what we saw earlier. Not just straight on the money from the first shot onwards.
But I'm surprised he went for Believe instead of maybe FaZe. Well, no, FaZe. I don't think FaZe plays any ridgeline, right? I thought for James, maybe he was going to go for James because that was probably a little bit more in range. But yeah, apparently that's just as much in range as the other guys were. So never mind me. Crazy is going to take down Tabby now. Very important to kind of take down these players and you know, kind of wall off that potential angle on them. Because the sooner they can focus on FaZe Clan running out of these buildings in the next phase, the better it's going to be for them. I wonder if FaZe Clan has any kind of vehicles. That's the main question I'm asking myself. Because if they don't, I think this is surely going to go to Freeside. But if they do, maybe they can isolate some of the players as well. Maybe they can get into positions deeper inside the circle. They have a little bit more survivability than I think right now.
Yeah.
And then it's all open for both of these teams.
I see a few smokes there. Fex has a few more. Team's already in a position. Got to figure out how to shoot past the hay bale. The hitboxes can be a little tricky there, but James is so close to zone, and so is the rest of FaZe Clan. I don't even think this is bad for them. I think this is pretty doable, especially once they get to James. They get to play these 2 hay bales there, and maybe use a foldable shield or anything alike. One more smoke on Mexi to delay a little bit further. they just gotta try and wait as long as they can, right? They gotta make sure that Mavra is moving and there's no two angles on their position. As soon as Context is able to peek this and Mavra is able to peek on the same time, FaZe is in big trouble. But if that moment never comes, if that moment never happens, then FaZe Clan might just walk away with the win here.
Wondering when Tetherin is really going to move out of that building. He has to just about now. And so does James any second. Tetherin has got one smoke. But I think everyone else is so pressured themselves, they can't even shoot him. And yeah, he's going to deny. Tetherin goes down. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be between FaZe Clan and Freeside here in this 3-on-3 scenario late in this third map. As we are approaching Phase 9, FaZe Clan has made its way outside the compound. A couple of smokes were indeed enough, but James is going to be taken down now. He tries to make it past his smoke. Mavis is going to take him down. He gets flushed right off the back of it. And that's the 10th frag for Freeside, ladies and gentlemen. They're looking to make it 12.
Oh, I love it. I love it. The deployable cover as well. The nade onto the hay bale to destroy any sort of cover phases play. And Mixie is already sent back and he says, nope, I'm going to tap out. I'm not going to give you another kill. Freeside looking dominant in that late game. Taking control, taking the right amount of space, and then just blasting phases that come through the field.
11 frags as well. That was not a gifted game. Yes, they did have rather clear edge on the northwestern side up until the point they pulled up on the ridgeline to FaZe Clan. But after that, I think everyone was everything they did, every decision was almost textbook play. So, I mean, got to give it up for Freeside. Third match going their way. And that's a big step up on the overall leaderboard as well. I don't think they got a lot of points in the first two.
No, they were rather quiet. They were holding on, sort of. Remember, they was, I think, a third place in the first one, but with not a lot of kills. So, a quiet games for them at the start, but a big one here to close out game number 3 of the day. We had a lot of clutches today, but we also had 2 teams eliminating each other in the exact same second. And we had a repeat of that later on with GG again, right? GG and Foot also just completely blasting each other and both dying for it. A lot of mutually assured destruction and a lot of just, crazy fights for these tiny compounds because there just isn't that much to play, right?
The fact that he hit the wooden pillar and still took down one of the players is just ridiculous. I mean, he must have been right behind that wooden pillar, actually. I thought it was another step behind it, but no. There goes the mortar again. Pinpoint accuracy. Takes down all 3.
Crazy.
Takes down all 3. Winner dies just like that, eliminated. And I think they thought this game was going to end that way. Look how much that actually meant to Freeside. They were able to take that position and grab additional angles on FaZe Clan, and that secured them the game. Realistically, that secured them the game. Right now, there would have been another 3 men out in the open for them to fight against if that mortar wouldn't have hit.
Yeah. And they would have never had that space, like you said, right? So they would have never been able to transition to that side. They would have had to fight FaZe Clan much earlier and while getting third parties. So crazy stuff coming out. The mortar play is absolutely insane. The mortar is always so coming out of nowhere, right? You don't see crazy mortar plays every game, but then suddenly you see them completely ruin a team. So you got to feel a little bit for win or die as well. But beautiful stuff coming out from Freeside. Super impressive in our game number 3, but we have one more game coming at you tonight. So we'll go for a very short break, and then we'll come back with game number 4 on our angle.
Just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the...
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. Real life, main stage, separate out rebels. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot.
and we are back for game number 4. We're back for the last game of the night. We are going to a wrangle. We're giving the players one more chance to close things out. But honestly, I am still mighty impressed. Freeside, I didn't have them on my little bingo card for winning a game tonight, and they got close in the first one, and they pulled it off in the third.
Our question is, who's on the rest of your bingo card then? If it's not Freeside, who's on your bingo card? Tell us. It must have been Ascent for one, right?
Brex in a glider is on my bingo card. Phalix disconnecting from the remix is on my bingo card. I was already able to chuck that one off, you know. FaZe breaching a compound is like 7 times on my bingo card, and so far they've breached like 4, so that's going pretty well. There's a few classics, you know. There's a few classics
just
that will always happen.
The PUBG Esports classics.
Yeah.
You love to see it.
Cole yapping and nobody cares, you know. That's also on my bingo card.
Yeah, that's on mine too. What a coincidence. I'm missing FUT Esports a little bit, to be honest. I'm missing FUT Esports in the very late stages. Yes, we've seen them like a couple of top 5, top 6, but I'm missing them actually having a chance of winning a game and actually getting like very close to it. That's what I'm missing. I'm missing them being more aggressive in TVP than FPP even sometimes. So I'm hoping to see them be a little bit more aggressive in the early stages as well. I feel like they've kind of shied away from maybe mainly because their entries have been so good. They had a prior on a lot of these really good spots in phase 2, phase 3, so maybe that's why. But apart from that, not too much aggression coming out from FUT Esports, which is unlike them.
Yeah, and also not looking super good in the fights when they do take them, right? We had them on the Tego edge there on the northeast, and they kind of just got destroyed by ADR. We had them now on that ridgeline that was looking good, and not very aware of Gaming Gladiators and realizing too late and getting clapped in that fight as well. So they result on 12th place here, 7 points on the leaderboard. 47 for Ascend, a rather quiet game 3 for them. I think they had 25 after 2 games. That was kind of wild, but that happens when you win both games. And Freeside an impressive 2nd place here with ADR in a very close 3rd.
47 points though. 3 games. Crazy. I don't know when's the last time we've seen Ascend with a dominant, with a performance that dominant. I think it's been some time ever since. 100 AR, we give it up. Got to give it up for them as well. I mean, they're never a team to be underestimated individually. I've said this a million times. They've almost played every single week of TPP as well, which should give them. I think they have actually played every single time. So should give them a little bit more practice as well. And then obviously there's FaceTime. Despite them not really being too close, except for that last game, still getting like 28 points, almost 30 points, still being on the top of the leaderboard every single time. Classic FaceTime. At this point, I'm waiting for them to pop off on one of the days as well. Maybe not tonight, maybe not on the last game that we're going to see in any second, but I think either tomorrow or maybe even face Sunday. But they're definitely going to win some of the games as well. You can just tell that they're kind of working their way towards it.
They have the playstyle as well. They have this high risk, high reward playstyle. They like to go very aggressive for phase 2, phase 3 compounds, get themselves into late games, and just hang out there with the best fraggers in the lobby. Cinematic observer shot. Can he find the plane? It doesn't look likely, but that's where we got the map stream for. Unlucky.
That's amazing.
Tragedy on the observer side of things. But we did see a very nice shot of Corey and a very nice PUBG sign, so you know it's an A for effort.
It's tougher than it looks, ladies and gentlemen. You're very free to try. If any of you guys have ever analyzed your VODs, your games, if you've ever played any of these esports games or just in general any kind of tournaments, you've been working and trying and figuring out that very complicated observer game. It's actually not that complicated. There's just a lot to it. It's so in depth. There's so much stuff to do, and so many hotkeys and so much stuff. So I feel for every observer in any of these games. It's a very tough job.
Especially as a solo, right? It's too much going on the map. You're not only maneuvering the camera around, you're also trying to figure out where you even want to be with your camera. What are the interesting fights? What are the fights that are going to happen instantly? Is Sloy the one who gets a pick here on the car? Or is it fine to just stay in the free cam because that player is getting away anyways? You know, all these kind of decisions constantly being made in the head of the observer, and it's not easy. It's also not, let's be real, it's not the most thankful job, because if the observer does a great job observing the mortar, everybody goes, wow, what a mortar. And then if the observer does a bad job, everybody says, wow, observer trolling. So it's a bit like referees in sports. If nobody talks about the observer, then he's probably doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. I just wanted to make the point that football observing is like 100 times easier than this. But yeah. I mean, just follow the ball, right? Just follow the ball. There's only there's only so much plays you have to take a look at. If the ball is somewhere, you probably want to have a camera there. But here, that there's essentially 10 footballs to go further than analogy. It's like at any point in any late game. So yeah, I feel for it. Either way, late game, we're gonna get to it. Question is who's gonna be there. Ascend has been there twice. They will start very far off from this circle now in phase 1. But Esports, on the other hand, does have big Prio. Historically, I don't remember them going too early whenever they do have this circle and they are looting South George. So I could imagine them taking their sweet time, grabbing as much loot as they need to. We're going to die once more, the great spot in phase 1 as well. And we do have a split inside Yaz. That's interesting. Inside Yaz, that's a big split coming out, and it's from the previous game winners. Fairy Tale now having to potentially fight off 100 ADR. You could split, but splitting Yaz, the main problem isn't the loot or, trying to stay alive. The main problem is the cars. So if you really want a necessary amount of cars for a game, which is usually 2, right? That's the bare minimum. If you want to have 2 cars, you're most of the time just going to have to fight someone either very early on or later on in phase 1, which is, I think, what we're about to see.
It's also just, I 100% agree with what you're saying. Cars are the main problem about Yaz, and contesting for it also means you can't go for the surrounding cars as easily because you are hard dropping for the city, right? So yeah, it makes the situation even worse. Doesn't help that the esports spawn is just on the road in the middle of town. So very easily camped from both sides. And then you add TPP into the mix and you're not even sure who's peeking you right now, who's looking at you, who's overwatching, and that makes it a whole lot harder. So Fairy Tale happy to get out of here with the taxi. Bright side pulling up. Gonna ferry them to maybe future additional vehicles. But we already see what this has done to them. We already seen It's Chris there in the distance drive past, pull up on the wizard and have a bit of a look in, because they maybe just want to camp this and they maybe want to cut this off if they can here, Ascend. Get themselves some early kills before they move towards zone.
I don't know when's the last time I've seen someone in the Wizard Tower in phase 1, but it is It's Chris indeed. You can only really do that if you have the bike, right? So I'm very happy he took that decision, and it's one of the decisions you can only really do if you have the bike in phase 1. Otherwise, you're just very likely to get your bike popped or your tires popped. But he's not even putting the bike inside, which is usually what you do. So he's got to be fairly confident there's no one around him. Also, I got to talk about the reskin just for a tiny second because I think it's glorious. It looks even better in person than what it does in the observing. If you've not seen the anniversary stuff, all the reskins they've did, it's insane. I've said this a million times to all my friends already, but it looks insane.
Yeah, it's clean.
So clean.
Very, very clean. Hard agree. Chris has to be careful now. Fairy Tale coming on by. Fairy Tale reasonably grouped up as well, so he's not going to be taking the shots just yet. April hits the front flip. Yeah. I was about to flame him for if he wasn't, but he hits the front flip. Good boy. Style points. Fairy Tale now cruising on by. Ascent knows this. And they might not now know as well that there's just one more team coming out of Yaz. And that team could be fairly unsuspecting, right? Because they know Fairy Tale left. So I'm not going to expect to get camped by a different team. So Ascent could really set up for this. And they have already put bricks very close to Yaz. So they might be just hunting for a few frags here. Double bike as well. Very mobile. Very easy to set up traps.
Yeah, really tough to spot out these bikes in the open field especially. But I think they might have just been a little bit too close to the city. And they probably are thinking 100 ADRs has hurt their bikes. So in the distance. So they are rotating away. But it's a good trap. I'm hoping they're going to stick to it. We've seen this happen on the north side just like last game as well, right? I mean, 2 games ago. Where they were able to catch off free side and kind of started that whole game off. The game that they did win in the end as well, in a very nice fashion, and it seems to be working out for them. So I'm not surprised they're going to try to do the same thing again. Bushido, on the other hand, it's been some time since we've really seen them frag. Maybe this is going to be the round. It's a good spot to be up here. Yes, you have to share with GG in this point. Maybe Maybe they're even going to have to fight for this. Look at this. They're going even further. They're not even taking any space right now. Not even stopping him whatsoever. Gadrox is going to take him down as well. He might even have the opportunity to take a second one down. The buggy, however, is a tiny bit too fast. And he will make it past. But Gadrox, a free frag just like this. And Bushido just a tiny bit too confident that hill's going to be clear.
It's tricky to scout, but in a circle like this, it's a bit rough to expect it to be clear. Should definitely be getting themselves multiple angles on it, but I see multiple angles on this rotation right now. I see Fairy Tail set up on two sides. One of them is being breached though. Conf on the roof. Does he get an opening? Nope, doesn't look like it. Free side, they just want to get out of dodge. They want nothing to do with it, but Maverick is down to literally 1 HP, and that's clearly been communicated because Conf is looking at nobody else. Somebody called out that US for being low HP. And Conf gets himself the knock, but Crazy's not willing to give that up. And again, Felix, that confidence you were looking for, it's coming in for a lot of their squads. But the res outside the building might be a little sus.
Ooh.
There's shots coming in from Bombilovo, but not enough to cancel that res. So just a tag. Doesn't get the headshot, doesn't get the flush. Just delays them a little bit further.
We'll make it inside though. That's the most important thing for Freezer at this point. Faceland now arriving in the south side of the circle as well. Spawning out the first couple of players. I think they're still very fine, to be honest. There's plenty of ways to rotate deeper. I think they're going to stay around somewhere around the area that they're in right now. Probably split a little bit more, get a little bit more information, and wait for the phase 2 pop. There's no real need right now to center in their position. And some minutes up until the point where that decision needs to be made, but you can see a lot of the spots in the open field already taken, so if it does shift centralized, I think that's the only thing they really have to be kind of worried about. But a lot of splits here as well. Ooh, that's a tough one. Ascend breaches that 2-2 split that we see right here. Balinini inside the buildings. Ascend wants to get a piece of that, but first player immediately goes down. That's Fresco hitting the 4. And I think the second player may have just fallen down as well, actually. Yeah, Fresco got flushed already, and the second player got taken down as well. Might have been Pains. Either way, Ascend down to just 2 men.
Down to just a 2-man. Rough times on the breach. Doesn't work out for them at all. Few teams taking casualties here as well. 61 players up. That's the other side of the coin there. Gedrox was the one inflicting the casualties. Zone's popping in 15 seconds. And we have a similar situation as we had on the Tego, as April tries to get out of dodge there. But if we do have a look at the map, you can see ADR is in an EP again, into phase 2 again. They're a little bit earlier this time, so if it would go hard east, then it would be almost too deep already. But for this circle now, again, they're going to hot drop towards Foot. And if they just see where Foot is grouping and what of these compounds Foot is leaving, they can just bag themselves the second best spot in the circle, see what Foot does, or just hot drop one of them and kill them. That's a possibility as well. And just with an EP again, ADR are looking fabulous in this game, Felix.
Yeah, they really have it narrowed down on when it really makes sense. And these are the types of circles. There's certain types of circles where it doesn't really make too much sense, and there's certain types where it really does. And this is one of the Pixeliga, right? So really late. He tried to pull his teammate, but now instead he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, and just like that, he's going to get taken down, not only by Kim, but also, if that wouldn't have happened, by his own nades. Tried to make the best of it, but obviously the parachute's just a tiny bit too fast, and the repositioning, the turnaround from 180 yards to realize this was perfect as well. Immediately knew Pixelic took a tiny step too far, a tiny drive a little bit too far, too close to the building. And when he was, they immediately turned around, didn't even go inside the building. Isolated him just like that. Slam G tries to do the same thing. Faceland in front of them. They're just being shut down one by one. And not even Boosty can do anything against this. Mogor and Artix as well. Hit the floor. Vex, Maxi, Gustav each gets one. And FaceClan just like that in the driving seat once more. Good rotation and good recovery against that onslaught of Slam G players.
Hold on for Face. Hard punish for Foot. Not only losing a member there, but also losing that position a little bit. Vard's still in it. The hospital is very likely the best position in this circle because of the land ratio as well coming in later on, and it's gonna sting for Foot to lose that. Now, a few teams settling on in. as we're bleeding players. East side, north side. Hope is in the middle of absolutely nowhere EPing into this. Ascend is trying to make something work on Go Next here. I think it was GG from afar, from the mountaintop. Got the knock onto Go Next. Chris lets the AUG rip, but now his position is known. And Ascend here, I think, just trying to take the best fight they can get. They know they're not going to get a whole lot of space this zone. They know they're not going to make a very successful rotation. They're just trying to take a fight. But I'm looking at that minimap, and I'm seeing Eternal Fire creep up on this as well. So if Killy doesn't get it going in the next 10 seconds, then his time might be up as well. But there it is. Fine's fine. I'm not sure if that's a re-knock or a flush. Oh, there's Eternal Fire.
Ooh, but he misses his chance. Unfortunately, Killy just prones down. He might make it back to the rock. No, he doesn't. Komaku finishes the job he started. Now it's Chris in the distance, trying to get a piece of the action. But he's being shut down as well. Easy Force got an angle on him. Komaku will be taken down, but not by Ascend, but by GG instead. And man, there's so many angles all around this. Go Next down on the, down to the street, and there's angles from GG up there. I'm not even sure if they can stay alive at this point, but they're committing heavily towards us, and they've got the smokes. So a couple of smokes might actually be enough for them to not only pick up that fallen teammate, but actually get back to the compound. I think that's what he is doing.
Oh, that's what they should be doing, yeah. They should be getting the reset in quick as well, because zone's coming on in, and there's a good chance that they have a really good circle here. So them being knocked and being so far away from all the information they could be gathering right now is actually a big deal. And with that zone coming on in, they now know, okay, at least it's not going north because there's water there, and it's not going far west. So that southeastern side is not as bad. And if they figure out that win or die is split 2-2, then they can suddenly play a really, really good game from here. But they've been mighty busy getting themselves that one frag or those 2 frags in the blue. Now, if FaZe was ready, they could maybe punish them, but it doesn't look like it. Eternal Fire still gets in, and FaZe will have to figure out what they do with this.
Sizzle should be safe for the time being. Headshot coming in against Cantix. But apart from that, relatively few fights. I would have expected there to be more skirmishes on the outside of it, but maybe we're going to see that in the next phase. Going to start just now, 2 minutes time for everyone to reposition. Next EP comes in too. Go Next. Does find that warehouse. Question only is, can they make it inside? And yes, they can, by the looks of it. But position is known now. And even though I don't think that's a trial compound for other teams to really breach, everyone knows there only is a 2-man in there now, when they kind of just shot at them. But yeah, look at this. Barely any positions anymore towards the southern side.
Look at Vard.
I'm really interested to see what FaZe's going to do now.
Oh, Vard's lining them all up. They're trying to go for the breach. They're trying to go for the 4-man cross. He's found 2 with a shotgun. He's going to try and reset that. They close the distance, but he still has a shotty. He still has a lot to work with. Now, Blue Zone's come out. Has to be careful that he doesn't get caught. One good bounce, and Wabuki might be in trouble. Akeem has already crawled to safety, so Vard gets himself his.
Oh,
and he's
no.
looking for more with the nade. Oh, the bounce could be so good. What is that? Looting his last one standing.
Yes, he is. He's found a frag with a blue zone grenade as well in the meanwhile. So it's just one player left. 80 is now pulling up to support his teammate, who should have fallen a long time ago, but he hasn't. Instead, he's found 2 more frags. Just one player left now. Kapi is still not flushed either. They could just get him up. 80 is actually going to do exactly that. He doesn't really see the scenario right now in which they can really 2v1 this. So instead, Vard is going to wait for his fallen teammate to get back up. Kapi is res now. Sobby's going to allow 100 ADR to do the exact same. So Hicks is. The main fragger for this team today is back up on his feet too.
Big reset coming out in hospital as we're about to see phase 4 come on in. Levante trying to lock onto Easy 4 there, trying to take him down, and he does in the end. Stays alive with it as well. GG in trouble as Eternal Fire comes for the sweep. Levante down from James out of all things. The angle from afar ruining GG. It's just Extens left, and Eternal Fire look to be swarming this, look to be clearing. They're going to lose one player in the blue here for certain. But they are looking to close that out. The nade does it. I was starting to feel a little bit worried for the Mad going in there alone, but the nade does it in the end. GG out. Circle centers up on Hospital as expected. And a lot of our teams on the south still unsure what to do. Lutik, though, has found Kapi in the Hospital.
That's Southern Compound.
Foot still waiting it out. More blue zones coming out, more damage coming in. It's another double blue zone. Oh my god, do they even have a way out? I think they do. That's just the 2 rooms cleared for now. Further rooms still available for Lutik and Hicks's. Nade will come on through. He does find one. Oh, he finds the first, and the clear is good, but Lutik is there with the hip fire around the corner, playing with the camera, playing with the pre-aims, and just like that, brought it down to a 1v1. Vard has the shotgun, though. He's got the flash, and it's just Vard again for Foot, time and time again. Keeps them in these games, keeps them in the Hospital, somehow keeps them relevant here. Not a good day for Foot, but a good day for Vard. And it ain't hard for Vard at all.
Doesn't really seem like it. Just been a really dominant performance from start to finish. Gustav actually makes himself down, and Fex takes Gustav. Okay, so they will try to deny here by the looks of it. Bringing it back to Foot Esports. That fight here has been going on for quite some time. And it's only really been Bart who's found anything. 4 frags on his. And now FaZe at the doorstep. 2 already down though. So never mind, I was talking about denying. I didn't even see it on the minimap. That's who they were fighting for. No. They must have just crashed in a really unfortunate scenario. Probably crushed by the vehicles of each other. And then because they were already knocked, I'm just trying to deny. But Mexi and Fax, at least 2 of them still standing. Would have been a perfect breach if they wouldn't have driven over each other or whatever happened. Would have been a really good breach and a really good shot at a really good spot as well. Somehow they made a pass winner die as a 4-man, which is kind of like the first big obstacle, and they made it to the door frame. As for whatever happened afterwards, it was not supposed to happen, obviously, but now they're here, splitting themselves across this big corridor, so they can attack from 2 angles. If Foot Esports does decide to make their way downstairs.
Don't mind this at all from FaZe, because they do see the fight in the kill feed, right? They see Foot going down to 1, and they do see them clearing out the Hospital, and they know the Hospital is one of the best spots they could ever get. So they try to make the breach. If Gustav doesn't die into his own vehicle there, then suddenly they're 3-man up, and maybe they're clearing. The way this did work out is Kapi knocking and flushing James and Gustav dying to the car. It's just a little bit too much. Takes a little bit too much wind out of their backs and stops them. But Hospital, such a dominant position. So nice to play out of in these later circles. In for so long most of the time, so I completely understand that they want to try and punish that. But we had a glimpse of the cars as well. There was, I think, about 7 cars in that Hospital entrance, right? And that's probably where something went wrong for Gustav.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I can understand the kill feed now. So I was
Yeah.
confused. For a second, I thought they were just going to deny somewhere because, I mean, that rotation in and of itself is a tough one. But as soon as I saw them here, I was like, nah, no way that happened on purpose. I mean, 2 players being taken out just like that, or 1 player being taken down by that. Yeah, something unfortunate must have happened. Very on the other hand, talking about unfortunate things, not much in that regard for them, to be honest. Great circle. They've got one of the strongest ridge line now. And as soon as that city, what we're seeing right now, as soon as Baldini and Believe have to go out in the next phase, it's just going to be a shooting gallery, if it isn't already. They can kind of look at the cross between each building. So if maybe 1 or 2 players, you know, are missing a smoke, something going to be kill potential here as well for Fairy Tail. If not even run in front of them, because FaceGun is now engaging with Esports, and they will find the first player. Somehow Mexi is able to isolate 80, and he takes him down. They must have not expected him to be here.
But 80 was the one holding top floor with a shotgun. I'm not sure how he gets isolated in the bottom floor. I'm not sure what happened for Foot there. Not sure what the play was, not sure what the call was. We're not in the comms after all, but bit of a head scratcher. Equalizes the playing field in Hospital, but Also makes everybody else around the hospital a little bit more interested. Plenty of strong teams, 4-man teams, all around that side of the map. Just looking for weaknesses, looking to punish FaZe and Foot. Belief, meanwhile, trying to stay alive in the city under pressure from Baldini. Well, looking to close the gap, looking to get their flush as well, as Loy knows exactly where he's gotten that knock. Exactly where he wants to get the flush, and he does. Now they know they're at least on the right track to take control of South George.
Circle's about to close here. Wow. Okay, so, I mean, lots to talk about, to be honest. Hope in one of the best spots, definitely, in this new circle in terms of kill potential. I'm just to see what Freeside is going to do with this here. Do they have the cast to kind of breach Hope? Are they going to try and breach 9 away? Are they maybe even going to go to hospitals? Maybe to breach the Rich Shot on the outside of it, because there's lots of people fighting inside hospitals. So they should know they have the man advantage. And the same could be said about, the same could be said about Fairy Tail. So plenty of options for a lot of these teams. And I kind of want to say an open game for almost everyone.
Fairy Tail is a lot more tricky. I think Freeside, you want to be breaching the containers on the west side of hospital. Fairy Tail, they want to third party this fight. They want to clean up whatever comes out of the town before they make their move, because their move is a bit of a desperate one. So taking kills before you do is optimal. Baldini, clean up Belief. That's a placement and 2 frags right there. Easy point injection. Fairy Tail is still looking to see if they can close them out. And Freeside doing the same thing. They're still hoping to pick up these frags, because they will have to move later than Baldini does. You can see that blue zone moving, and you can see that Baldini has no time at all. There's April with the first, and that's exactly what these two teams are trying to do right now. They're trying to maximize points here, and it's at the expense of Baldini, who have no cover left in the circle. They don't have the smokes out. They're going to get absolutely blasted or deny, and it's looking like a deny angle right now. RSTQQ and Winkley not going to make it out. No free points for the teams just hunting in the waters. But Fairy Tail and Freeside both have to make the play, and they have to make it right now.
Spurs smokes are coming out. Hope actually rotates down the ridge side just a tiny bit. Has that been the position from the get-go? I'm not so sure. They want to try and get better angles on this team now, rotating out. First player already goes down, and that's interesting to me. That's something I wouldn't have necessarily expected. Freeside is going to go to 9 away, knowing that these positions they will now take are probably the best ones in terms of starting this fight. Our players are falling left, right, and center. I think it's just down to a 2-main though. Yes, you said the 9 away. It's down to a 2-main as well. This is one hell of a fight. I'm not even sure if you can call it that. That's just hilarious from both sides. Stacy somehow is going to come out on top though. Sizzo falls to the ground. Ibaku gets that flush though, so not even that is going to give him to Freeside. Ibaku takes the angle inside the compound they just rotated out of. That's crazy as well. Quick thinking coming out from Ibaku. Just has to be careful of making it back.
Classic Ibaku, they realize they don't have enough space on the south of the ridgeline, so they shift a bit north, and they instantly try and third party this. Vard, meanwhile, has posed a massive issue in the hospital area. I think he's knocked 2 already of Fairy Tail by his lonesome, and he's still alive and kicking, so that's a problem for them. Now Vard finds a third, a re-knock of that. And he's making life a whole lot harder for Fairy Tail than it maybe could have been, because they did make the breach as a 4-man. They did make the entire cross there with their cars. But they have walked into Vard. And with Conf still not being rezzed, and Fex now looking for the same flushes as well. Not an easy time to be in hospital right now.
Oh, it really isn't. And Phoenix tries to fight off the Raps players. Takes down the first one, maybe. If the headshots line up, but no, they don't. He's going to be taken down expectedly, so... Man, at least they get 2 more frags, maybe 1 more frag. I think that's ultimately what they got from that rotation, and maybe another placement point. So not too shabby for Freeside, but not really what they expected either. They rotated out of this as a 4-man. There was a 2-man in front of them, and now they're just, essentially they secured 1 frag and another placement. So far below their expectations,
they're still kicking.
But they are close to being inside.
They're still kicking, and they're going to play out on this ridgeline, and they're going to be alive on that ridgeline for a little bit. Their main problem is Hospital, but Hospital is... Unless Hospital just starts teaming together and everybody just blasts them out of the windows, they can get quite busy with each other here. You can see April. He's charging up the stairs. He's looking to take control. He wants something. Vard taken out by Bombilovo means that the door is now wide open. Cappy engaged by Fex from the top as well, and Fex finds April. Hospital is blowing up, and This is exactly what Freeside needed. They could have made their approach now. They're just starting to realize that this is even a possibility. But they can almost just walk up into Fex. He's got one window he can peek on him, and the rest of the Hospital squad is pretty busy at the moment.
Out of all the teams, it is Fairy Tail, actually. I mean, you're talking about, yes, Fex only having one window, but you disregard there's another player down there. Just literally just one floor below him.
They reset that so fast.
Normal. Yeah. Good angles now from the entire team, actually, against not only FaZe Clan, against obviously Freeside as well. If they want to make their hill up, but maybe Fex is maybe Fex can find himself a really cheeky angle. He sees the first player. No. Oh no, never mind. There's a body. I thought that was actually a guy proning. Never mind. Yeah, I was confused for a second. Why are you proning? But no, that didn't happen. And now the push is coming in. Fairy Tail knows this now as well. Both FaZe Clan and Fairy Tail have gotten that information.
There's a really good chance Fairy Tail and FaZe just double nade. There's a really good chance they just nade at the same time and just share the frags here. Freeside, not a whole lot of space. They're still in again, but not a whole lot of space to work with. That folded shield would do wonders once the circle closes on in and these smokes fades, and well, it saves Cantix for one bit, but there's just so much util coming on in. The entire Fairy Tail and Fex chiming in as well. Trying to blow this one up. You got to carry Stacy out of that blue zone right away. But oh, it's ticking. It's close. He could drop him down. Barely doesn't get out. Con finds another one. That man has util for days. Just like that. Marva. Last one kick in. And it's looking a lot less rosy now for Freeside.
Crazy. Still alive though. Still alive and kicking, at least for the time being. Top 5 is already secured. And Hope and Winnow die, both knowing they can't really coexist in the next couple of circles. Know though that there's so many teams that still have to fight, so let's just take it. Like, no one really needs to put the pressure. No one needs to put like the gas pedal to the floor. Like, we can just chill here, and that's exactly what they did. So smart thinking on both these teams, realizing that they don't need to necessarily do this fight up until this point. That's exactly the point that we're seeing right now. Presenti opens it up. Hope goes down. That means Winner die now with a man disadvantage. That might just be equalized though by Fex. But no, it's actually going to be a double nade coming in against Hello My Bite and Dante. Somehow Hope is turning this around. Despite that first knock, they now do have the man advantage. And I mean, even FaZe Clan had an angle on this. They got to be careful.
And these teams are just rotating around Hospital as they wish. All the time, FaZe doing damage, third partying, shifting around to the north, shifting to the south. Now they're running out. They're just going to clean this up now. They're just going to backstab this. Look at Mexi. He's waiting for Fex. He's taking his time, but if he sees a freebie, he will take it. Just like that. Winner die down to 1. Fex still no HP to work with, but Hope is going to step into the open. They're not on their fire, and FaZe just collects whatever the hell they want out of this right now.
That's incredible. I think that's secured them 2, maybe even 3 more frags. I think if he would have been a tiny bit more maybe patient with his utility, he could have had a lot more, but he had to make his way down the hillside now that Fairy Tail made it out. But what a timing play coming out from FaZe Clan. That's incredible. Mexi's even going to take down Bombi Louisville. How the hell did he make that one happen? He's completely surrounded by smokes. He must have kind of marked it on the map and maybe just shot at his marker then to know kind of like the direction where these players would be right next to the wall. That's sometimes what's happening, but the way he shot him through the smoke. And just like that, finally, the fight on the other side is secured. Presenti was alive up until this point. That's his survivability. But now Mexi is making his way across that ridgeline once more. He takes the exact same spot. Hope has no idea. How is he still staying alive in this one?
Oh, the smoke wall, so insane. But he's actually out-snuck them now. They don't know he's crossed. They think he's still involved with Fairy Tail on the other side. If he finds the opener here, or if maybe Hope oversteps a little bit and lets Fairy Tail get the entry, this could be absolutely massive. He's biding his time for as long as he can. Now he backward steps over. He's aware. He's ready for it. And he saves his team there. That would have been disaster. But now 3v2 in full control of the ridgeline. And he Baku with 3 gear on top. It's looking good for Hope.
Yeah, it really is. Man, he had 2 flashes there. Imagine Mexi pops out the flashes and just rushes down the ridgeline. Hope would have been the last player to really, you know, kind of cover them, but that didn't happen either. Schengen now takes down Conf. Just 1 player left standing now for Hope, who've been so incredibly dominant in the performance as well. Interesting enough, against FaZe Clan, that was kind of their last chance in that first week of qualification that they really had to beat, that last big enemy that they had to beat in order to solidify that position at the very top of that qualification week. But either way, they will make it a very good performance today, when it matters even more than just the qualification, with another really good round. This time around, the win as well, 12 frags by the end of it. Hands of Hope staying strong and solidifying themselves towards the top 8 as well.
Absolute banger of a game, absolute banger of a hospital circle as well. I've never seen teams just shift around all sides of hospital like that. FaZe was running north-south, north-south. Foot was doing the same thing when they were alive. At part, teaming up versus teams on the outside, right? Fairy Tail and Fex working together to just blow up Freeside there. So much work done from that hospital, and then everybody else just like struggling to stay alive on the outsides, just for Mexi to walk out and ruin your game, right? Like crazy things going on around that hospital this circle.
Yeah, what a decision though from FaZe Clan to kind of realize, okay, if we jump out right here, we know the Fairy Tail is kind of focused on everything else but the northern side of hospital. That's just not one play that they would expect, us making it past that ridge line. And no one else expected it either. So for them to do that with the correct timing, without being, spotted out by Fairy Tail, them having no idea, it's just perfect. Textbook play coming out from FaZe Clan, solidifying themselves towards that top 8, deep inside the top 8 as well. This looked different. That was one of the first fights we've seen in this game from FaZe Clan. This exactly, like, you were kind of theorizing, maybe Fex was flash, maybe there was some nade just beforehand. I didn't see it right here. Maybe that was the case, but either way, Fex and the rest of his team definitely being decimated right then. It wasn't a great start, but I mean, if there's one team that just really isn't faced by any performance, they could have 8 bad games in a row and still come out on top on the next 8. That's got to be FaZe Clan, right?
FaZe isn't faced by bad performances, yeah.
No pun intended, but that's a good one, actually.
That's a good one, yeah. No, I asked Fex in the break, and he said he wasn't flashed. He said, I quote, "I'm just bad at TPP." He was just too far away from the corner, and I love it. I think it's fair. I think it's fair enough. And you remember seeing him in hospital there, peeking windows like across different floors and stuff. He was doing most of that in FPP because he was just like a little bit more comfortable, right? A little bit more aware of where is my head actually showing when I peek it. Versus, oh, yeah, I can see this with my camera, but I'm not actually sure if my body's exposed. So, both of these perspectives have ups and downsides. Of course, third-person upsides overweigh most of the time, but we see players switching back to FPP plenty of time. I think we just saw that Keely highlight as well there on the car. He's mainly in FPP in that one. So, players in those fights very often do switch back, and sometimes it pays off massively.
There we go again. The quick highlight from Boostic. Unbelievable stuff, actually. Unbelievable stuff, genuinely. It really is so much stuff than it looks like sometimes to have that amount of individual skill. One more teammate would have definitely clutched that out as well. Keppa, likewise. What a performance today from so many individuals from start to finish. It's been an amazing day. This one, for example, how crazy is that? Come on, Lurix. You shoot out 2 plays that distance after you miss almost everything. Same could be said about your team. This shot from Itzkris, there's just been a million highlights today.
Absolutely. Million highlights, and we're about to cook up a big one here as well. We're about to see somebody blow themselves up with a Panzerfaust. There we go. Boom. Absolutely bumps himself out of space, and then we're about to see the greatest mortar that we've seen in a while. I say greatest mortar in a while. It's just, I mean, there's a debate up there for what's the greatest mortar, but that was absolutely clean from Freeside, who've really impressed today. Consistently placing decently in these games, placing well in these games, getting into late games, getting points on the board. Love to see that for them. And that was just one of the very many moments where they rewarded themselves with a few points.
Amazing stuff. The mortar play as well. Actually, I cannot believe we had so many highlights. The very first week I asked it, I think that was the highlight of like the entire weekend. We have it in like 4 matches today. It's actually insane. We had the mortar, we had Itzkris, we had I mean, Mexi, we had a million highlights. Actually crazy, I'm not going to lie. I think that must have been one of the biggest highlight days, at least in some of the TPP matches that we've had up until this point. And not only the Players Tour and just the Masters Cup as well, and so on and so forth. So, crazy. If you've watched today, man, you're not missing out on PUBG Esports action. Yes, there's a lot of people out there, theorizing, more like discussing, what kind of vision they prefer. A lot of FPP diehard fans in the chat really thinking that's the way the game is to be played. But man, it's fun either way, and it's good seeing these highlights nevertheless. Yes, you might prefer FPP, but you cannot deny some of these highlights today were just insane to watch either way.
Absolutely. And we saw crazy highlights that were FPP highlights and we saw crazy TPP highlights as well, right? Vard making that shotgun work in a 1v3, in a 1v4 actually, taking out 2 and then nading 2 more later on. Absolutely just using the camera to its fullest extent. And then we see other highlights where it's really just somebody shooting their gun really damn well, and it doesn't matter at all which perspective it is, right? I mean, that mortar, it doesn't matter if that's third person or first person. A lot of the shots we've seen today, Chris in the glider, just popping drive-by headshots at people, fly-by headshots at people. That doesn't have anything to do with third person versus first person. So it's still PUBG, and it's still good PUBG at that as well, especially today.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm honestly, I'm hyped for the next 2 days now. We have 8 more matches ahead of ourselves in case you've missed the entire structure of how this works. This is it's not quite the $20,000 prize pool that we have in the Masters. It is the Super Cup. There's a little bit less than 5,000 between the top teams, but nevertheless, it's a good place to practice, especially for the teams that haven't gone to PGS, especially the partner teams that haven't gone to PGS. This is kind of they're getting their reps in, they're getting their practice in. So I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the teams out through the next 8 games. We've seen glimpses of brilliance from Ascent that I personally haven't casted in a long time. At least when they did well, obviously I haven't cast them do well in a long time. So that's very happened to me today. Unfortunately, the last 2 games of the day haven't really gone their way. So I'm interested to see how the total leaderboard situation looks now in terms of Ascent as well, and if they can bring it back tomorrow.
It's gonna be close, I think. I think they're probably still ahead, right? They've got a few decent points in this one. But I think we should see a FaZe Clan consistently in the top of these games, pushing themselves towards the top. And we should see a free side there pretty high up at the top as well. So again, I said this before, I'll say it again. If Freeside would have been 12th after today, I would have said, yeah, wow, nice, solid. But they're second. They That's absolutely insane. Blast themselves up the scoreboard. A decent last game as well, right? Not a hot one, not a crazy one, but they get themselves into position. They get themselves 5 placement points. And just like that, get themselves a 5th place, excuse me. And just like that, you're up there at the leaderboard. So beautiful stuff from them so far. FaZe, Ascend, I'd say you can't really call Ascend consistent, but to be fair, they lost a player in Phase 1 to a crash in Game 3, so that one's kind of a write-off. But FaZe consistent, and then Ascend super shiny in 2 of the games, dominating the scoreboard today.
Oh, so we did have a crash. That's good information. Unfortunately, so that must have been Brexco then in the glider.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be the worst time for crash as well, right? Because you're in a glider. It's like the only vehicle you can really get taken out in Phase 1 if you crash. So unfortunately for Brexco, that's one game written off. Still being in first place though, 48 points. A good omen for the next 2 days. Now, ladies and gentlemen, 8 more games coming up. Obviously, same exact structure as we had today. 180 are going to highlight them as well. Super consistent. One more of the qualified teams that we kind of have to highlight a bit more. That's just been, I wouldn't say dominant, but very, very solid and consistent throughout all the qualifications, all the TPP tournaments. And I kind of feel like they're taking a liking on this clean slate, so to speak, in terms of TPP as well. I feel like they're practicing a lot of TPP. They're playing it a little bit in their free time, I could imagine, because at least in terms of how they play, they seem to be very, very well structured.
Super clean. I love it. A lot of teams super impressive. Across the board, I don't even want to pick out too many individuals, but I think a lot of the teams looked super clean today. A lot of players looked super clean. I think we talked a bit about Foot being flat, and well, they had Vard, and sometimes that's enough, right? That's sometimes the thing you got to get going. And then some teams struggling a bit on the rotations today, struggling a bit on the fights, but there's plenty of time to come back. Will it be enough to fight for a first place? Only if the top teams fumble. If you're 40 points behind after the day, it's going to be tough. But if Ascent can get 45 points in 2 games, then I guess so can you. So plenty of chances still in the next 2 days. And if the next 2 days are going to continue to be PUBG like today, we're in for absolute highlight reels. We're absolutely just banging through these games, and it's been clutch over clutch.
Yeah, I saw someone when that mortar hit. It wasn't even 5 seconds, and someone had a clip of that in chat. So, yeah, so many highlights of that. I got to go through the highlight clips actually after today and rewatch some of it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it from us for today, though. Once again, we will see you back tomorrow. Exact same time, exact same layout, exact same teams, and the same will be happening on Sunday as well. It's been an absolute pleasure. I think we had an amazing day. I cannot stress this enough. This has been really, really fun, and we hope to see you back tomorrow.